Greetings, this is Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I have drifted into the underworld. The Star Wars underworld. I have a bad feeling about this.
Here we go. We must go to the lower levels. The underworld.
You've taken your first step into a larger world.
You're after something.
Ben.
Since I've started the underworld, I've met so many great friends.
Chris.
I grew up in the 1990s, and mall packaging is nostalgic for me.
Dominic.
What I love most about Star Wars is that it's fun, and it's all-round good times.
So, this is where the fun begins.
May the Force be with us.
This thing really moves!
Whoa! I like this!
I can't believe you came all this way to see me.
What's up, Star Wars fans, and welcome back to another episode of the Star Wars Underworld Podcast. We are your source for the latest breaking Star Wars news and discussion each and every week. And this week on the show, the hype train for the book of Boba Fett has officially left the station. That's where Rob Rodriguez is out there talking about the show. And we have tons of rumors about Obi-Wan Kenobi, about the Ahsoka show, about the Andor show, tons of rumors to get to. And finally, we're going to be getting to some more of your listener emails, which we're super stoked to do that, all that, and so much more in this episode. My name is Chris, and joining me is my good friend, Mr. Dominic Jones.
Hello, Chris. Hello, Ben. Hello, everybody. Yeah, we've got a nice, buffet of Star Wars stuff to talk about.
It's a smorgasbord.
A smorgasbord, if you will. Of just we got a little Boba Fett, got a little Ahsoka, got a little Visions. It's all over the place. It's nice. It's good. I'm excited. We got a little bit of everything to choose from. It's going to be a great show.
Heck yes. And also joining us, it's Ben Hart, the Star Wars guy.
Why, hello there, ladies and gentlemen. And I've been thinking, since we made this big jump to this whole visual medium, to where you can see our lovely faces, I've been thinking about the fact that we cannot see you. All right. You can see us, but we cannot see you. I don't think that's fair. What I want you to do is I want reaction videos of this podcast for 2.5 hours. Even I want you on your phone recording yourself listening to this. All right. I want to see your face. Okay. That's what I want. Okay. So get on it however you can, as soon as you can, because this is my demand, and I think things should be fair, and I want to see your faces.
As soon as you wear a top hat, they will do it.
Yeah, but if you do that, I also, in addition to the videos, I want to see your thumbnails for the videos with all the pictures of you guys going, making.
I'm telling you, they're not doing anything. I haven't seen one single thumbnail. I haven't seen one Macaulay Culkin thumbnail or anything like that from you guys. You slacking.
Yeah, those totally natural and real pictures you always see of people in the thumbnails for reaction videos that are completely natural, that nobody has ever staged. And I know I definitely didn't take the next 10 weeks worth of them yesterday or anything like that. Never would I ever do such a thing because it's too real. That's what this show is. We're too real. We keep it real.
See, the reason why I'm not on all of them is because it gets to be like the day before, and I'm like, no, I can't do it because I don't have my outfit ready. I have to have the same outfit. I'll wait, and then y'all do it. And I'm like, okay, it's already made. I don't need to do it.
Yeah, I'm not worried about that. I'm not worried about looking how I look in the picture.
If you look at the thumbnails that I am in, I'm wearing the same outfit every time.
Because he's genuine. His is like he does it, and it's on here. It's nothing fake about this at all.
Yeah, of course.
Awesome. Let's see. All right. So should we do plugs or should we get to our story time?
I want to do story time.
Let's do story time. All right. Usually Dominic has a good story time, but this week it's me. I'm the one that had something that's kind of hard to top. Ben knows about it. Dominic does not. So
yeah, you have no idea what you're in for.
They won't tell me. It's really annoying.
Okay. So, as some of you may have heard, Disneyland has gone back to accepting their annual passes. It's a new thing. It's called the Magic Key program. So if you want to go to Galaxy's Edge, you can again at Disneyland. and you can get a magic key.
I mean, you could go before. You just had to buy a normal ticket.
You
like
just had to buy
everybody else.
a very expensive ticket for just one day, which I refuse to do. I'm like, if I'm getting a ticket, it's got to be for the whole year because I live here and it doesn't. Anyway, so if you're in California, there's a special pass that you can get for California residents. If not, there's passes for everybody else too. So it's pretty awesome. So I just kind of rolled my old membership that I used to have before everything shut down into a new one, and got my magic key and was all super stoked. I got it really late at night and I'm like, okay, I live close to this park. I'm going to try to get on the last ride of Rise of the Resistance. Like, because I know from experience that if you kind of show up like at the end of the park day, you might be able to get on a ride and get on it really quick and ride it a bunch of times and all this stuff. So I'm like, okay, this might be a good time because I heard the lines for this are really crazy. So I show up and I walk into Galaxy's Edge and there's like almost no one at Galaxy's Edge. Like it's so empty. It's mainly people who live on Batuu that are there. Not a lot of visitors, intergalactic visitors. So I'm walking around trying to find, and I knew where Rise of the Resistance was going to be because I remember we were longingly staring at that spot for a year. Like, okay, this is where it's going to be. It's going to be right here where there's big empty, there's just this hill and there's nothing. This is where it's going to be. So I go to that spot and what do I see? But like a tunnel. And I'm like, this is it. I'm going to join the Resistance. This is awesome. So I walk into the tunnel and I see empty queues, just empty queues. There's nobody there. There's no cast members there. There's no people there. And I'm like, oh man, I looked out. There's no line. This is great. I'm going to walk all the way to the front of the line. I'm going to get on this ride it, shut down the park. This is a good decision. It's a good decision. Good life choice. So I'm walking and I'm like, dang, this queue is long. And I'm walking like 5 minutes, 10 minutes. The queue just keeps going and going and going. I don't know if anyone's ever been on like the Indiana Jones queue, but like that thing's freaking crazy too, especially late at night. So I'm just walking and I'm like kind of walking kind of fast, like not really absorbing some of the cool stuff along the queue because I just want to get to the front of the ride, get on the ride before the park shuts down. And I'm walking. And then I notice, wait, I've been here before. This is weird. And then I realize I'm walking in circles. I'm not going to like the front of the ride.
This is like that scene in Thor when he's just going around in the place and he keeps coming back to it like the way
It's a circle.
is hanging out. Yeah.
So I realize I'm going in circles. I'm like, and I had not seen another human or alien or anything in like 10 minutes. I'm like, this is crazy. And I'm like, I just need to find where to get on this ride because I'm looking at the clock and it's like almost time for the park to shut down. And so I keep going. And then I realize like, I like can't even get out of here. Like, I don't know. I can't get into the ride. I can't leave. There's all these different exit doors everywhere, but I don't know where they go. It's not the one I came in. And then, so I finally like go through one of the exit doors just to find like some human who can tell me where to go. And I end up in this like kind of like service hallway. And I'm like, oh, wait, no, this is not part of the ride. This is like, so it's at that point that I'm starting to frantically text people and they start telling me, you need to be filming this. So I turn on my phone.
We start getting texts just from our end. We're getting texts going, I am literally lost. I'm lost at Disneyland. I can't get out. Like, oh my God. I'm like, what is happening? And you're like sending us pictures of this, and it's clearly not Galaxy's Edge. Like it's like a back room. Like it's not. I'm like, how did you? I've never seen that part of Disneyland. All right, how did you get there?
So I started filming at this point, and you can witness my escape, my harrowing escape from the clutches and depths of the Rise of the Resistance ride in the video. So, Chad, you can take it away. So, I don't know where I am. I went to go on the Rise of the Resistance ride, and there was no one at the ride, like no one at the front. There's not a single person in the line. I have not seen a single cast member. I walked through the entire line and ended up just like outside again. It was empty. I didn't see a single other person. So I started just like walking back in, and like there were all these doors. So I went through all these doors and I'm like lost. Like I think this door might be locked. If this is locked, I'm like trapped. No, it's like a dark. It's like a dark hallway. I asked for help and somebody just ran. Like he just said, "I'll help you," and then he walked away and disappeared. I don't know where to go. Disneyland closes in like 5 minutes. I don't know where to go. Like, the entire ride is empty. There's no one here.
This is the creepy part. This is like,
it's like all
what is happening?
I want to get on the ride before it shuts down. There's not a single other human being anywhere. I don't know where to go. Do I go this way? What the heck? What is happening?
I want to know what that sign says.
This is so crazy. I'm like lost trying to get on this ride.
The most exciting part of Disneyland, the office area.
What time is it? It's like 4 minutes till the park shuts down. And I'm like lost. The guy just... I don't know where to go. What? Like, there's no one here.
Stay there. This is literally the dream.
I've not seen a single person.
If the park wasn't about to close, I would have.
I don't even need to be where
At this point, I think the ride's still happening, so I'm like rushing to try to get to it.
You want to ride the ride. That's why you're like frantic.
Am I just going to have to stay overnight at Disney World?
Yes!
Disney
It sounds like a great thing!
Galaxy's Edge?
I want to do that!
I can't find anybody. You'd think somebody by now would have noticed this.
Yeah, I guess this tells you they don't have good security cameras at Disney.
Nope. I saw them, but someone blasted them.
Okay.
You're like in the loading dock. My God. Just get in the golf cart and drive home.
Whoa. No, we want to get on the ride.
You look like you're being chased.
I don't know how to get to the
Some
ride.
stormtroopers behind you.
This is like found footage horror movie written
I
all
don't
over
even know
it,
how to
man.
get out of here.
This is legit.
I'm like literally.
John
trapped at
Favreau needs to
Disneyland.
get in there and put some like CGI troopers behind you.
It's
like the evacuation of Echo Base.
Where does this go?
Imperial troops have entered the base. Imperial troops have entered the base.
The guy just said he'd help me, and then he walked away. I think he went in the bathroom.
So you couldn't even wait for the guy?
Yeah,
so
it was. I waited for like 10 minutes.
Oh, okay.
There's nobody.
I think I saw him going to a bathroom.
He must have been having a
completely
fat.
empty.
Yep.
Like the cast members at this part of the park are clearly just bad at their job.
Well, he wasn't allowed to go inside. I think that was his issue. He was like only allowed on the backstage.
What?
At this point, I literally
I
can't
think
get
this
out.
is where the people are. What is it? So
Yeah,
sad.
I'm gonna tell my son this is the Mando and Grogu running from Ice Spiders episode.
This is a waterfall, by the way.
I'm,
In case
There's a
anybody was
waterfall?
wondering. Yeah, the waterfall.
There it is. Wow.
That's cool.
I want to ride this ride.
At this
least
point, I'm kind of getting back
I haven't
to
seen
the park.
I haven't seen a human
See, there you go.
being
You have
other
a
than,
waterfall. You have a
like,
fresh water
people
supply. You know,
outside.
you
I
can
haven't seen a
say
human being in about
Right.
20 minutes.
Be good for days.
first in line for Rise of
is
Resistance in the
crazy.
morning.
Oh. Park's gonna close. No.
The first transport is away. The first transport is away.
I don't know where to go.
Sorry. I wish I had someone there filming me. That would have been nice. Gotta do what you gotta do.
Genuinely, this looks like some kind of like
excuse me?
art house film project.
There's some dialogue now.
Yeah, I was trying to find the entrance. I've been walking around for like 15 minutes. What happened? Okay.
Titles.
So that
Yeah.
way? Yep. That's where I walked in. Okay.
Jesse, I'm so tense. I know you make it out okay, but I'm still hoping for happiness.
Oh, this is not good. Thanks for visiting. I've been walking around there for 15 minutes trying to find the entrance to the ride.
Main Street will remain open for an additional
Yeah.
So unfortunately, this attraction closes at 9 o'clock every night.
Oh, no one. Someone just let me walk in, I guess, thinking it was open. I guess. Okay, someone. What? No, there wasn't anybody at the entrance. I just walked in. Like 15 minutes ago. I've been walking around 15 minutes trying to find the ride.
When it's closed, it should be, closed.
Okay. Yeah. That's so weird. I literally walked to like the outside where like there was like crew people in yellow vests and they're like, I'm like, help me, I'm lost, and they're like, okay, and they walked away and they left me there. I was like on the back of the, I like couldn't get out. I was like lost in there. I don't know. Maybe I went in just where I saw a place to walk in where there was like I didn't like go through any gates or ropes or anything. I just walked in because I thought this is the entrance to the ride. But then I walked through like the whole area on the inside. There was no one there. I'm like, why is it empty? There's no one. And then I was looking for crew members and there was nobody there.
Yeah, we close at 9.
Okay. I mean, it'd be nice if there was. It would be nice if there was like maybe you block off the exit so people can't walk in there. I guess
No,
that's what
don't
happened.
tell them that. I want to do this.
Right there.
Don't tell them. What? No.
I don't know. There wasn't a gate. It was just a. I don't know. Probably that might have been it. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. So this closes before the park. That's what happened. Okay, I did not know that. Okay. All right. Well, I'll come back tomorrow. I have a pass. So, yeah, that was weird. That's the weirdest Disney experience I've ever had. Okay. Yeah. Right. Thank you.
Just a weird flex at the end there. Oh yeah, I'll be back tomorrow. I have a pass. I love that's terrific. I said during the video, I love the person's like customer service voice of like, oh my god, that's so weird. Because like I've done that. I've had this conversation with people where they're where they're not supposed to be, and they're like, yeah, there was just nobody here, and they let me in. But why did you tell them? Because I genuinely, we know the ride closes at 9 now. 9:15. I'm walking over there. We're going in.
Yeah,
we're filming.
They're not gonna do anything.
Lost at Bat 2. This time it's personal. And we'll just.
This couldn't have been the first time that something like this happened. So I'm sure that if they were planning to change something, they would have done it by now. So I don't think anything's gonna change. So I did go tomorrow, which was today, and I got in the virtual line for the ride, and I'm still in the virtual line for the ride now. So I have to show up in the first thing in the morning if I want to go.
Yeah, I feel like this could have gone like that video could have just been you live going like, guys, I'm not going to make the show because I'm stuck here. I can't find my way out and I need help.
This is this is giving me so many ideas because you're like walking around in there.
Yep.
Like that's a Star Wars movie set.
Yeah. I like it.
We're going there and we're filming a fan film. We don't need a script. We don't need anything. We just need some people like in vaguely Star Warsy outfits
Disney
to show
bound.
up. Yeah. And we'll get some lightsaber. We'll bring in some lightsabers, or we'll go get them from Doc-on-Dars, and we'll improv it. It'll be like, whose line is it anyways? Star Wars edition, and we'll just
genuinely the best time to run around at Disney parks and go to rides is right before the park closes. Like when the fireworks are going off, people are running the fireworks. Ooh, pretty lights. You go to all the rides because everyone's going the opposite direction. So like this is a strategy. This is like something that I've done before. We need to do now with this. Even if the ride's closed, we'll just go. And we'll have fun.
I remember we did that one time when I was at Galaxy's Edge, and we went onto the Falcon ride when everybody was watching the fireworks. And then we came off and I'd forgotten that's why we had gone on the ride. So I just hear these bangs going off. I'm like, what is going on? What is happening?
We're under attack.
We're still in the ride. The story's going on. Yeah. Jesse says Fanboys Galaxy's Edge. I mean, if Kyle Newman can't get the sequel off the ground, we're making the spinoff. The Fanboys extended universe, the FEU.
I got to see if they'll let us take a grappling hook through Disney security.
Fanboys, the found footage horror sequel.
Yeah. God, yeah. Oh, this is, man. This December, we may have, if this December, we may have something. Mm-hmm. You guys thought, there's not another Star Wars movie until 2023. We'll have to think about this. I'll have to come up with something. Ben, you have to come to Comic-Con.
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah, we're just gonna have to make.
I don't even know if they're gonna let me into Comic-Con. I gotta figure this.
At this point, who knows if they're letting anybody into Comic-Con?
Right.
But, that's a topic for another day. That was incredible. That was amazing. I was happy that the Millennium Falcon ride broke down one time, and I got to stay on there for an extra in the cockpit for an extra 10 minutes.
That sounded awesome. I wasn't there for that one. That sounded cool.
Yeah, but this is next level. This is some next level. You know what? That is. Oh, yeah, great story. Yeah. Great. This was a worthwhile story time.
So we've got so much news to get to, all that Book of Boba Fett stuff to get to, all these other spinoff shows and all that news and listener emails. But before that, real quick, just want to remind everybody, we're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. That's our current goal. We are very, 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 very close to that. Let me see where we're at right now. We're at 900. We just reached 900. So thank you, whoever that 900th subscriber was. So we only
100 more. Let's go.
Just 100. Let's get the entire cast of the 100, and then we've got it. That's all we need. So if you're listening to the show on the podcast, on any podcast apps, even if you don't plan to watch the show, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Greatly appreciate it. Would support our show. We're also part of the bigger Culture Slate network. So I want to give a shout out to our other shows on that network, Star Wars Culture, which broadcasts on Wednesdays, The Rollout, which is going to broadcast tomorrow, and Chatter Squadron, which is going to broadcast on Saturday. Lots of fun Star Wars and geeky stuff going on those shows. Head over to Culture Slate, look at all the channels and the channel lists there, and you can get to everybody's individual channels there to find their content as well as clips from all the shows on the Culture Slate YouTube channel. You can support us on patreon.com/theswu. We are putting together a budget for Ben's top hat and my purple shirt, and Dominic, so he can get more pencils. That's right.
I'm all set for it's school starts on Monday. I'm all set. Not that I'm going to school, but if I were, in theory, I guess not Monday.
To go, just in case.
Ready to go, yeah.
So patreon.com/theswu. We want to thank everybody who's recently supported us over there. It means a lot, and we will use it to fund our Star Wars Fanboys sequel horror movie. We promise. And our merch is over at tpublic.com/user/the Star Wars Underworld. Get it there while you can. And then you can send us emails at swunderworld@gmail.com. And please leave a review if you're listening to the show on an app that lets you do that, and leave a comment and like and subscribe on YouTube if you're watching over there. Ben, what is going on with IPC this week?
All right,
that might be a rhetorical question.
Yeah, you never know. Actually, this week it is things. We're going to push this episode back a little bit, so we won't have an episode this week, but I will point you in the direction of our previous episode, which was all about the Bad Batch, which was a lot of fun. We had great discussions about all kinds of stuff. So yeah, it was a big long one too. So you can watch it on YouTube, or you can watch it, or you can listen to it. That's how you do with podcasts. You don't just, yeah, I'm so confused now. All right. You can watch podcasts.
I'm pretty sure, Ben, you smell podcasts. It's 2021. That's how you consume content.
I mean, it's about damn time you'd have smell-o-vision with a podcast. And sometimes, I don't know, you may not want to smell a podcast. This is a weird tangent. Let's just move on.
Next year, tasting podcasts.
Ooh. I have a bad feeling about that one. Ben, have you finished your plug? Should we just get to the news?
Yes, please.
Let's get to the news. 30 minutes later, let's get into the news.
So much.
Well, let's start with the Book of Boba Fett, seeing as the totally not staged thumbnail for our video features Ben and I ponderously wondering whether or not the show will live up to the hype. And yeah, things have gotten the hype is really getting rolling with this, because Robert Rodriguez is out there and he's promoting stuff, and he's talking to Collider. And this is what he says about Book of Boba Fett. He says, "I can't say anything about it at all right now, but it's coming out in December. Wait until you see what's coming. It's going to blow your mind. That's all I can say. I can talk it up all I want because I know it over-delivers. It way over-delivers. People are going to be so pumped when they see it." He also talked about the visual effects and the way that they shoot the show with the volume, that 360-degree space with the screens all around it, and how that compares to shooting on location or on a green screen. And he says that this is not something he would actually use for movies. He loves it for TV, but he wouldn't use it for movies. He says this: "At first, I thought it made the most sense for a series because you could have loads that you could reuse and places that you can come back to often that it would be impossible to get to on a regular basis in a series. I don't know if I would use it very much in a movie where it's just one-off scenes that are done. They're only a couple of minutes long, and then you never go back to that location again. Like on a sequel to We Can Be Heroes, even I was thinking, would I use the volume or would I shoot traditional green screen again? Because I got some pretty cool stuff." Man, Robert Rodriguez is just like, Book of Boba Fett's incredible. I got cool ideas for We Can Be Heroes too. He's just out there just throwing stuff out there, just trying to get the hype train building for everything. But is it possible? Is it possible for something to over deliver?
Yeah. It's definitely possible. Like those giant lights that I would put on the background of the show the last few weeks, and it was just like color the entire room and all these colors. I'm like, these are a little bit too much.
Okay, let me rephrase this question. Is it possible for Star Wars to over deliver?
No. Technology, yes. Technology, yes, but Star Wars, of course not.
No, the expectations are too high. Even if it over delivers like he says it is, that's just delivering for people, I think.
It is kind of a new thing to have someone go like, "This is awesome. It's even better than you think it is." Like usually it's like, "Oh, it's satisfying." That's the thing. And I love it. I love that he's like really enthused about this. And he's like, "Oh, this is like great. You guys are going to love it. It's even better than what you realized it was." I'm like, okay, all right, Robert Rodriguez, I believe you, man. I have no doubt that it would be amazing. So, you know what? Maybe it won't. Maybe there is no such thing as over delivering. I don't know.
I just like that he's talking about it this way. Like, honestly, like I'm so sick of everybody being humble about their stuff. It's like, oh, it's a good thing. We really hope the fans will like it. It's gonna be good. No, just go out there and say you love it. If you love it, if you stand by what you've made, what you've worked on, say it, shout it loud for all to hear. I know it's Star Wars, so you don't have to really market it all that much, although you do have to market it some, as Solo taught us. But you don't have to like really convince people to like a Star Wars thing. You just have to make sure they're aware of it. And so you wind up with people everybody's being sort of really respectful of the original movies and the stuff that came before them. And yes, you should do that. You should also, you should pay respect for what came before, but also be proud of your work. Like, be excited about it. Come out there and say it. And I just kind of like that he's like, yeah, no, it's great. It's the best thing. You're going to love it. There's not an I hope in there. It's just, it's good. Sit back and enjoy. I want more of that.
Yeah. Everything that he's done so far with Star Wars has been absolutely amazing. So I think he was a perfect person to pick to work on this show, and I'm so excited for it. I think having Boba Fett show up in The Mandalorian was a huge plus, but you always have to worry about him overshadowing, Din, who the show is supposed to be about. So I think that it was a good move to spin this off and give one of the an awesome director an opportunity to do two more. So I love everything that's happening here. I'm so excited this show. I'm pretty much just excited as I would be for Mando season 3. This is kind of like season 2.5. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I find it interesting how he's talking about how this is really perfect. The technology is perfect for a series, but it might be kind of overkill for a movie because of the way that it's set up. And that's really interesting. And I think really the big takeaway from that is, and we already kind of know this, but the big takeaway is it being reiterated that we can make movies that aren't movies now. We can make things that look like movies, but they're not on the big screen. And that's just so exciting. And it makes me wonder, as we get back to in-person stuff in the world, knock on wood, fingers crossed, all the things. When we get back to that, are we going to have more opportunities to see the Book of Boba Fett and the Mandalorian on a big screen? I mean, it would be so cool to see an episode of something at like Celebration on a big screen. It'd be so cool to give other people an opportunity to see that as a limited release, because this stuff, these are really movies on Disney Plus. These are like 35-40 minute movies, just like the Clone Wars was an animated movie for 22 minutes, and Bad Batch is an animated movie for 25 minutes. Like, so hearing that this technology is really up to par with that and really brings series to a theatrical level, and live action, which is George Lucas's vision for live action Star Wars. He wasn't going to make any live action Star Wars until this could happen. He wasn't going to put out anything that wasn't the same quality as the movies. It just makes me so excited and really, really want opportunities to see this on a big screen with the big surround sound, because that's going to hold up, and that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, there for a while there, a couple of years ago, it seemed like a lot of TV shows were doing like cinema screenings. They would show an episode or two, and sometimes it was like, to get you ready for the season premiere, we'll show you last season's finale. I think I went to a screening of the Game of Thrones season 4 finale in IMAX, of all things. They showed like the last 2 episodes in IMAX. And then at the end of it, they debuted a trailer for season 5, I think. And I know Doctor Who did it a couple of times as well, where they would debut a new episode in theaters. And it felt like it was kind of becoming a thing. And it's since fallen off. Even before the pandemic. And I kind of wish they'd bring it back just as like a one-off. It's fun to get everybody together. Everybody in the theater is excited for these things. One of the best, speaking of Doctor Who, one of the best theater experiences I've ever had was watching the 50th anniversary episode in theaters. Like,
that was awesome.
People were just going insane. It was like opening night of a Star Wars movie. And that was in 2013. So that like sort of set, I was already thinking about like, oh, there's going to be more Star Wars movies. There's going to be nights like this for Star Wars. And I remember people, going crazy when David Tennant showed up on screen and stuff. And then Peter Capaldi later. It was like, it was awesome. And I remember thinking like, oh yeah, this is going to be it. When Force Awakens, or episode 7, as we called it then, when Han Solo and Luke Skywalker show up on screen, that's what this is going to be like. So I'd like them to do this again. And I was wanting them to do that for Mando before everything shut down. And obviously couldn't do it with season 2, but I thought season 1, there were some episodes they could have done this with. So they should bring this idea back. They really should, especially now that, I don't know, it feels like the line between theaters, or between movies and TV, is being blurred, with movies debuting on TV now. You can rent Suicide Squad the same day you can go and see it in the theaters. Then if that's the case, then I want to go see Mandalorian in theaters.
Yeah.
Sure, but I'll go. I'll pay the extra $7 or whatever to see the season 1 finale of the Book of Boba Fett.
And you know what?
That sounds way more fun than staying up till 3 a.m. to watch it by myself.
And here's the thing, is like, the only reason why I can see Disney not doing something like that is they want it to be the hook to get people to, sign up for that subscription for Disney Plus, which, they're going to be milking forever, which is, a fantastic business plan. And we're grateful for them being so shrewd, because like, it means more Star Wars. It means more Star Wars shows. So we're not going to complain about that. But they could just say, look, hey, if you're a Disney Plus subscriber, you can go to these screenings. You could just do that, and then you can still get your business plan And then you can get people in the theaters will want it because they'll all that popcorn and Coke this hour.
Yeah.
So
I'll buy a bag of Twizzlers the size of my shoulders. Like, come on, you'll make money off of this.
No,
it is amazing though that like the biggest the biggest era for watching Star Wars at home has coincided with the era of we all have to stay inside and watch everything at home. Like, it is pretty amazing. Like, we had this pretty long string, 5 years of Star Wars movies, and it ended right before global pandemic. That worked out.
The stroke of luck right there.
Right. I mean, imagine we're sitting here like wondering like, oh, are they going to release The Rise of Skywalker this December? Like, are we going to finally see the end of the Skywalker saga? Like, that could be happening. Like, we're seeing all these Marvel movies happening, and they were supposed to come out last year. Like,
think of how many reshoots they could have done. How much they could have.
Yeah, changed. Exactly. It is amazing. But like, going back to that, like, it does not replace I love The Mandalorian. I love Book of Boba Fett. At least I'm hoping I will. It looks amazing. And
Robert Rodriguez says you will.
And like, even the Bad Batch, I think, is like cinema quality animation. Like, it's amazing. It's so well done. Like, some of the best animated stuff I've ever seen in my life. And all this stuff, it reminds me like, yes, I love watching this in bed at 2 a.m. It's fun, yes, but like that.
I don't want to watch on this. I want to watch on the thing.
But it belongs that theater experience.
As much as I enjoy watching things like this and having it look like a VR, you don't exactly feel it.
VR is another whole other realm. I'm all in. If you want to do some stuff that we have to do at home for VR, okay, that's another
VR in a theater. That's the future.
Yeah. No, but like, they don't have to do every episode, right? But if they did certain episodes, right? Like, again, this keeps people subscribed to Disney Plus. Like, let's take the premiere of The Bad Batch. Let's imagine it premiered next year instead of this year. And theaters were open and people could go and everybody could be safe. No masks, no nothing, all of that. And you do that episode, you could even probably get away with charging $5. Sell all the popcorn. The theaters will be happy. Maybe they'll complain a little less about you releasing your movies on streaming at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And then you say at the end of the episode, great. You hope you enjoyed that. We'll see everybody on Disney Plus for episode 2 next week.
Yep.
Like, it's just a one-off like little celebration. Then you say, hey, maybe we'll come back to the theaters for the finale. We'll do that again for the finale. Or if there's a big mid-season episode, like if we took season 2 of Mandalorian, if they said, all right, we'll show the Marshal and we'll show the finale, but also there's this episode 5 we think you guys might want to see in theaters. I think that's going to be a big episode. There's like a Jedi or something in there. You could bring all of that in. So this is one of those things, like, there must be some reason not to do it because it just feels obvious. It feels like everybody's going to make money, and the people that don't care won't go.
Right? And even so, they have like Marvel Cinematic Universe, like giant marathons. They have Star Wars marathons where people sit in the theater for like 24 hours to watch movies. Like, just show the whole season at once. Like, sometimes you can do that too.
Yeah, you'll start with episode 1, go to episode 8, enjoy. It seems like a great idea, and I hope that what Robert is saying is true, and that we'll come away from this season of Book of Boba Fett going, I wish we could have seen that. Wish we could have seen that in the theaters. All right, we'll have more about Book of Boba Fett in a little bit. We're gonna circle back to it, but we want to get to a couple other things first. We talked a lot last week about Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga, the console game. But there's actually another Lego Star Wars game that's coming out a little bit sooner. This is Lego Star Wars Battles. It's a new player versus player action strategy game that's coming out for the Apple Arcade. Ben, tell us what is going on with this.
Yeah, so it's some kind of like, I don't know exactly what this is, but they released like not concept art, but like some screen caps of this. And it looks like kind of like a one-on-one kind of battle game. I don't know what I want to say, like Clash of Clans, but it's not that. It's like, because we kind of had that with like the other Star Wars game that I'm forgetting the name of. But there's definitely like Yeah, probably. Yeah. But like, there's some interesting things. Like, it doesn't look like it's all known characters. Like, you see like the playable characters like Yoda and Boba Fett. But then there's like random people in here. There's like a flame trooper, like from Clone Wars, just like that. And you can kind of like, and there's BB-8 too. So like, I'm curious, like, what is this going to be about, and like how is it going to play? Everyone's been like very upset by the fact that we're still waiting on the Rise of the Skywalker Saga game. So, we're getting this apparently sometime soon. So this will be available on Apple Arcade. I don't know how that works. I don't know if you can actually buy it or you have to like subscribe to Apple Arcade. I don't know how that works.
I have some apples in my fridge, so I think that'll do.
Just put a Lego man on top of one of the apples, and that's the game. That's
Abracadabra.
Boom.
Yeah, just have your Lego people fight each other, just like that. That's as close as you get. But yeah, that's apparently what's going on with this. It's an app-based games are hit or miss at best sometimes.
Trying to play KOTOR on my phone was interesting.
Right. The controls are definitely a lot different than consoles. But this looks neat. I'm looking forward to this. I'm looking forward to playing it and seeing how because they had the other game, what was it, Star Wars Hunters, that got delayed. So this might be our next big app-based game to see.
Okay. Nice. Yeah, I expect they'll do the same thing that I do with every new Star Wars mobile release, which is download it, play it twice, and then forget about it for 6 months, and then delete it when I need memory space. That's generally how these things go. I don't know. It looks cool. Like I love Lego Star Wars. I'm always happy when there's new Lego Star Wars stuff, but there's no trailer for this thing. There's nothing to really give us like a good sense of what it is. So I'm just kind of looking at it as a thing that'll happen. And if somebody reminds me that it's happening, I'll probably give it a try. But until then, it's a mobile game. What do you want?
Where I think the money is, and we're obviously wrong because they keep putting out this stuff, so somebody's buying it. And again, if we're all buying it, and even if we're not playing it because they're buying it, it's making money. But that being said, I think a lot of these games have microtransactions and stuff too. So clearly somebody's paying the $5 for this skin and that upgrade and that and this and that. So, but we're wrong. But to expand their audience, what I think they should do is they should continue looking at games that are already successful, that people like, that are unique, and then making a Star Wars version of those games. Like, one of the things that pushed me into Minecraft was knowing that there was a Star Wars version of Minecraft, and that made me even more motivated to play that for the first time. And my one game that I played a lot was the Star Wars version of 2048, because 2048 is one of the simplest yet most brilliant phone games that can suck all your time. And there was a Star Wars version of that I don't think that was even an official thing. I think some fan made that and put it on a website. But it was really great. And then if you look at Lego Star Wars, that's from the original Lego Star Wars games was kind of a play on an expansion of the idea of the Lego games that they had in the 90s, the Rock Raiders and stuff like that. Yeah, I think that instead of making new games that are kind of really cheap and the ideas aren't amazing, just take amazing ideas and Star Warsify them. I think that that's a better way to go about it.
So what you're advocating for is Star Wars Angry Birds 2 and 3 and 4.
I'm sure those did some of the best for all these mobile games, because I wasn't an Angry Birds player myself, but if I had been, I would have been playing the heck out of those games if I was one of those people. I want Star Wars Go. That's what I want, because I've never been a big enough fan of Pokemon to do that whole Pokemon Go thing. That was the biggest thing ever back a few summers ago. And everyone's walking. Literally, you would see flocks of people just walking, looking at their phones. Yeah, all right, we know what they're doing. Then you see the people with the big backpacks and the big charge batteries and all the cords going into their multiple phones, and it's their full-time job. I ran into somebody at Black Friday, and I'm like, what is your job? And he's like, I'm a full-time Pokemon Go trainer. I catch rare Pokemon and sell them online. And I'm like, what? So it's where's the Star Wars augmented reality game? Because they played with augmented reality in certain things here and there. We know that they've done some of that, but where's the big open world augmented reality game where you're like a bounty hunter, and instead of catching Pokemon, you're like you get someone's chain code and you have to go bring them in. Like it's so easy to do that. We have all the technology. They have the money to put into it. Like it's amazing to me that they don't see something that they see something like Angry Birds and Minecraft and make a Star Wars version of that, but then something as big as Pokemon Go, and they haven't done anything of that level, because I would play that.
Yeah, I still have some screenshots on my phone somewhere of around the time of The Last Jedi or Force Friday for The Last Jedi, the Star Wars app that I don't know if it still exists anymore, but it did exist. In certain cities, you could scan landmarks, and they would put like Star Wars things in the sky. And that happened to be the weekend of Fan Expo. So I was down around the CN Tower a lot in Toronto, and that was one of the landmarks. And so I have these screenshots of a First Order Star Destroyer hovering under the CN Tower. That they didn't quite get the scale right, because in the picture, the tower, like you're right in front of it, so it looks massive. And the Star Destroyer is like this like little dinky
oh my god,
they're just trying to show how big that tower is, and like show up Canada, like, hey Canada, you made this tower, it's like 10 Star Destroyers high. Like
it was, but it was cool. It was a fun thing. And I thought at the time that this might be leading to something more, that there would be this sort of thing that we could we could be trying out more and more often. But it seems to have just sort of been left to I don't know, everything about the release of the Rise of Skywalker and the Rise of Skywalker merch and everything felt a little muted compared to The Last Jedi and The Force Awakens. With those two movies, they had really gone in, and like I think you could go to like Walmart or Target or something, and there would be things you could scan, and then little BB-8 would roll around on your screen and stuff. So like it seemed like they were going in that direction, and then I don't know, something happened.
I think they if I remember correctly, I can't remember if it was like Solo or Rogue One, or like there was something they overdid. Like one of the releases they put out a little bit too much. It clogged everything up. Flying pizza.
It's not quite. I don't know if it's showing quite as well as I hoped, but
I totally get the. I get it. It works. Yeah, it's like I think they overdid one of the merch releases for one of the movies, and it like clogged up the shelves with stuff that wasn't moving for a while, and then it ruined the whole thing for the subsequent things.
If you go in the right store, you'll still find a gin just hanging there.
Oh dear.
Yeah, they finally moved out all the Constable Zuvios so that we could make room for all the Rogue One toys. Oh man, yeah, those were the days. They were interesting times, to say the least. And I don't know, bring them back.
I would love to get in a foot race at 7 a.m. in the morning over a Zuvio. I guess.
Yes, exactly. Hold on a second. I'm trying to do something as there it is. There's the picture.
There we go.
Nice. Hashtag find the Force was the
I just think the CN Tower is just that big. That's
I mean, multiple Star Destroyers.
I mean, that's as a kid, that was the international view of your city. It's where the biggest tower in the world is, and that's what everybody would talk about, and that's how I knew about it. So when I went there, I'm like, I know where I am, biggest tower in the world.
There it is. It's right there. 3 Star Destroyers high.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like this episode has just been us telling them things they can do to make money, or things we think that they could do to make money.
Isn't that our job?
Yeah, you're right. It's true.
If you're Disney, isn't that's good? You got some free consulting focus groups from fans. You don't have to pay us the $50 in cash, or give us the Disney gift card, or wherever they get their focus group people.
You just have to promise not to arrest us when we shoot our fan film in the Rise of the Resistance line.
Yeah, that's all we need in return. Yeah.
Oh, that'll get us on some lists, I'm sure. Something that they're probably going to get us to spend some money on is merch for Star Wars Visions.
Ooh.
Specifically some apparel. This was revealed this week on on StarWars.com. And if you're watching the video, you should be seeing my screen now. And we're looking at StarWars.com. There we go.
Yeah.
And we'll look at some of this merch that's been revealed from Star Wars Visions, like this.
That?
Look at this Boba Fett, this like samurai Boba Fett hoodie. That thing is great. I want this shirt, the Tatooine Rhapsody poster band T-shirt. That's the one.
That's cool too.
That is cool. I think that'll be good. We got Robo from one of the shows. Got some of the others.
I love that because like you can't tell what that is like right off the bat. Like it's just kind of very nondescript.
This one's interesting because there's some battle droids.
Yeah,
we didn't see battle droids in the trailer, did we?
Yeah, and this is the T-shirt for the Village Bride.
Interesting.
And some battle droids. Some battle droids in here. We got some socks.
Nice.
A whole bunch of different socks. These are cool. Got the logo and stuff. Yeah, some interesting merch. But the big takeaway: battle droids. They're back. We got battle droids back.
That's probably my favorite design now. That's a really cool design.
Yeah, I think if I were to pick two, it would be the Tatooine Rhapsody and it would be the Village Bride. These ones they look the best, although they all look good. Yeah.
They all are great designs. I wish some of them were really purple. That would make it really easy for me.
Hey, where's the top hats? Where's the Star Wars Vision top hats?
Yeah.
Well, you could dye some of the white ones purple, and then there you go. There's your purple sheet T-shirt. That'll work.
I just gotta find purple
just
dye.
wear a T-shirt on my head, and that would work.
That you need an actual top hat, Ben. We're not.
I think it would work just fine. I think we've established I just need to have something cover my head so I can put a T-shirt up there if I damn well want to.
No, that's not what we agreed on. No, it's not it.
I like how it's we agreed on something. No, you all said I need to do a thing, and you're bullying me into doing it. There's no agreement here.
Wait, no. You came on the show last week apologizing for being topless.
Only because I was pressured, all right? Behind the scenes pressure. I was pressured into coming out. You pushed me out and said, you need to apologize for this. That's what happened.
I did not say you need to apologize.
I saw a video of you saying I will wear a top hat. And Jon Favreau told me that I could trust anybody with a blue check mark on Twitter.
Yeah.
And therefore I believe it of you just saying you were apologizing for not wearing a top hat. Anyways, more for the ever-growing Star Wars Underworld Gallery special that will one day.
That's right. I gotta write down the timestamp. This needs to go in.
Another
needs to be in there.
58 minutes. Let's go.
E-Man wondering, wait, bro, where's the hat dude?
No, don't encourage this. All right, don't encourage this.
All right, let's talk a little bit about Solo: A Star Wars Story. We haven't talked about that in a while.
Yeah.
Thandie Newton. She played Val in Solo. And as you know, if you saw that movie, and if you didn't see that movie, why are you listening or watching the show? You need to
this right now and go see the movie whose logo is based on our logo.
Yes, exactly. But in the movie, obviously, Val is killed. She sacrifices herself during the train heist, only for Han and Beckett and everybody not to be able to steal the coaxium, thus setting into motion the events that followed in that movie. But when the movie came out, there was quite a bit of controversy around this about the death of Val, seeing as this was the first prominent Black woman in a Star Wars lead role in the films, certainly, and I think in any of it, any shows or anything.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, like Addie Gallia was kind of really the only.
Yeah.
Since Stassi, and they underdid those characters so much they tried to make us think they were the same one when they weren't. They're like, we're gonna give you the same outfit. Like, what is up with that? It's like they're literally like, okay, we got these two Jedi characters. They're both women of color. You just reuse the outfit that we used in the last movie.
Yeah.
What?
That's one of those things that, like, if that happened now. Like at the time, I don't know if people noticed, but if that happens now, like that's really, really bad.
that is like one of my greatest gripes with Star Wars. Like I have a few things that just grind my gears. Like that's right up there with Boba Fett not being in Revenge of the Sith. Like,
that's a really bad one. I hadn't really I always knew that happened, but I never stopped to think about it. Which tells you, I mean, so with Val, obviously there was a response that it was, that this is not a good look for Star Wars. It's not a good thing for the movies to be doing. Thandie Newton, she hasn't said much about it up until now. She was interviewed by Inverse this week. And this is what she said. She said, I felt disappointed by Star Wars that my character was killed. And actually in the script, she wasn't killed. It happened during filming. And it was much more to do with the time that we had to do the scenes. It's much easier just to have me die than it is to have me fall into the vacuum of space so that I can come back sometime. That's what it originally was, the explosion. And she falls and you don't know where she's gone. So I could have come back at any point. But when we came to filming, as far as I was concerned, and was aware when I was filming the scene, it was too huge a set piece to create. So they just had to have me blow up and I'm done. But I remembered at the time thinking, this is a big, big mistake. Not because of me, not because I wanted to come back. You don't kill off the first black woman to ever have a real role in a Star Wars movie. Like, are you effing joking?
Woo!
She didn't say nothing.
No, she said the whole word.
Yeah. I'm obviously she's right. Obviously,
yeah,
no doubt about it.
We noticed that. I remember that was one of the first things after we had seen the movie that we mentioned was like, why the heck did this happen?
I remember, Ben, you and I, we saw the Canadian premiere and we were walking out of it, 24 hours before the rest of the world.
Under that big CN tower.
Under that big CN tower.
Comes full circle.
We were walking. Actually, we were going to go meet Chris and everybody else. We were going to have dinner that night, and we were sort of talking about it. And that was one thing where we were like, "Oh yeah, that's not going to go over well. That was a bad choice." The only thing I'm a little bit confused in this quote is like, was Val supposed to come back in the movie, or were they just leaving it open ended so she could come back in something else?
It sounds to me like it's the latter, because if there was a plan to kind of have her be later in the movie, well, of course they couldn't have killed her. So I think, but then I think it's like, basically, I think what happened was there was too many characters. They had to keep the movie under a certain times runtime, which again, I hate. Do not do that. You know how excited I am when I see a movie come out and it's like 3 hours long and it's like a movie I'm excited for. I'm like, yes, it's 3 hours of my life that's going to be so blissful. It's watching this for the first time. I get really excited when a movie's that long. And so like it pisses me off when they're like, Star Wars movies have to be 2 hours and 10 minutes or like whatever. Like, because it's like you make so many bad creative decisions when you're trying to fit a story. That stories have nothing to do with runtime. They're stories that need to be told. Characters write their own stories. And so when you come up with a great concept for a character like Val, her own story's written and you got to tell that. You can't just like have the character move around like a chess piece and be, a cardboard character. Like, it's so dumb. So that's my rant about that. But anyway, where was I going? Why was I getting mad at that? Oh yeah, it's because they probably said we don't have enough time for Val's story to be completely told throughout the whole movie. So we gotta just kind of have her exit at some point. So they chose the scene where she could just like disappear, but then later they probably were like, okay, that doesn't make a lot of sense that she just disappears, so I might as well just kill her. And then they did that. It was like, seemed kind of really flippant and like they didn't really think it through, which happens a lot in Star Wars movies, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. I think it sounds like her almost like the decision was like made like on the day. Like, that's my biggest takeaway from this. Is like, there was an idea. The original intent was perhaps by Phil Lord and Chris Miller or whoever was writing it at that time to have her survive in some way or have it be more ambiguous. Whereas what in the movie is pretty cut and dry. She's apparently dead. We seeing that stranger things can happen in Star Wars and characters can come back. So, that's my ultimate challenge now is like, Lucasfilm, right or wrong here, bring Val back. Who cares if she blew up? You can bring her back, and that would be great, especially, if we ever get a Solo sequel.
I'm pretty sure that Echo blew up, Fives blew up, Gregor blew up. Everybody was blown up at some point.
Yeah. Bring them
exactly. Explosions mean nothing. Explosions mean nothing. But like it is, and it's also, it just goes back to like, okay, I don't think they had like bad intent in like killing her off. I think they were probably just on the day going like, okay, this makes the most sense for the story. But you have to look at it from the outside perspective of like what she is exactly saying, which is this is the first Black woman to have like a sizable role in a Star Wars movie. And you give her a little bit of good like story stuff, like there's some interesting stuff going on there, and she's dead. And that's just like from a out of story perspective, it didn't age well from the moment it came out. It definitely hasn't aged well now.
Yeah, I am wondering if there's a little bit more to this, that if it wasn't just meant to be an ambiguous thing, that like there was thought of actively bringing Val back, if not in Solo, but in some kind of sequel.
Possible.
Because there was when John Boyega was going to those protests and speaking at those protests last summer at the Black Lives Matter protests, there was an article that was written about Finn and the role that Finn plays that was posted on the website Polygon. And I'm gonna share my screen again so we can look at one of the replies to a tweet of the article, because I think it's very interesting and very telling. So we'll go over that. So here's the article. And you see the original tweet says, John Boyega is doing what Star Wars wouldn't. For my Polygon debut, I explain how Star Wars could have adapted the traditional Black resistance to make Finn into a different type of hero. And then the reply, Phil Lord, some people tried, ...
Wow.
So there you have it. I mean, that to me suggests that they were trying to do something more in their version of Solo.
Yeah.
And when the decision was made to part ways with them, with Phil Lord and Chris Miller, then changes had to be made. And I think more changes were made than they've talked about. And I think a lot of those changes had to do with the fact that they now had a lot less time to basically redo the movie. And so now they had to work around people's schedules. And Thandie Newton at the time was shooting Westworld. So she would have had another major commitment to have to work around while she was doing Solo or any sort of Solo reshoots. And we know that, I mean, they couldn't get Michael K. Williams back. That's why Paul Bettany is in that movie. Michael K. Williams was supposed to play that role, was supposed to be Dryden Voss.
True.
And so I wonder if they just sort of went, well, we can't get her back for enough time to film whatever else we had planned for her. So, well, I guess we'll just kill her off. We have this sort of ambiguous moment. Let's make it let's make it less ambiguous, make it clear that she dies, and we'll say that's motivation for Woody Harrelson's character for the rest of the movie. Which is weird, because Beckett, like, he's mad about her for like 2 seconds, and then he moves on.
That's the thing.
Quickly.
That's the thing with that movie, is that it doesn't totally work. It's like you establish that like they really care about each other, like they love each other, all this kind of stuff. They have this really great relationship, and then she's dead, and then he's pissed at Han, not for killing her or for contributing to her dying. It's like, oh, you lost the shipment. Like, there's no thing that could easily point to, well, maybe that scene is from the other version of this movie where Val's quote unquote death was more ambiguous, and maybe it wasn't so clear that she died, or maybe she survived and she just said, oh, okay, whatever, and she wasn't there. Because I've always thought about things. I'm like, he's not really grieving a whole lot. Like, he seems like, I get that's Beckett's character. He's kind of an a-hole, but like, it seemed like he did care about her, but there's a disconnect there.
Yeah. And like, this was the other thing that never sat well with me about Val's death. and this is like a small thing in comparison to the larger thing, is like it means nothing in the story. Like they don't get the stuff they want. It doesn't like usually in Star Wars when a character dies, they're like sacrificing themselves for the larger cause. And so at the very least they're remembered as like a hero, as somebody who sort of thought of greatly after their death. And with Val, she the moment in the movie sort of plays like it's a heroic sacrifice, but in reality, it's not really, and they don't even get the thing. It doesn't even do what it's supposed to do. It's
meaningless. Like she kills herself for nothing. Like if it would have been different, like if this was towards maybe the end of the movie and she does something to sacrifice herself to help to make the job, but the whole thing is botched. Like the whole thing is ruined because of Enfys Nest and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Again, he's not mad at Enfys Nest. Like I would expect Beckett to be like, "Oh, you killed my wife." Like what's the deal? Like he's not mad at Enfys Nest at the end. Like what the heck was with that?
Yeah, there's more to this. This really suggests that when they started remaking Solo in the middle of making it, they changed more than they let on, which I feel like obviously they did. Like Lucasfilm is under no obligation to tell us when they make changes to their movies, until they come out. So, obviously, I think with all the movies, there are more changes than we know about. We hear about the ones that like sound good for PR reasons, where it's like, well, we realized when we had 6 weeks off because Harrison hurt his foot that we could, rewrite the Finn-Rey relationship and make it even stronger. Like that's a nice story. That's a good story to tell. It's a less nice story to say, the first major black actress in a Star Wars movie. Yeah, well, we couldn't work with her schedule because we didn't like our directors, so we killed her character off.
And like and then it all goes back to they're trying to make this thing work and redo that like completely, because Ron Howard gets a director credit. How did he do that? Well, he had to direct how much 60-70% of the movie to do that. Like that means they should reshot a lot in a short amount of time. They try to get it back on that release day where there's a lot of competition, and then the movie fails at the box office. Like
that to me is the bigger, like when we talk about like timing restrictions on Solo, more than runtime. That's the problem with what happened there, is that they insisted on keeping the May release date. That Bob Iger said, we're releasing this movie in May, come hell or high water. And literally hell and high water came for this movie. And he said, no, we're still putting it out. I don't care. And so they did what they had to do to make the movie work as good as they could. And, Solo is a very entertaining movie. Don't get me wrong. I enjoy it when I watch it, but there are clearly some things in it. Val's death being sort of one of the most sort of visceral examples of it, that just clearly were a bad result of things that, that don't usually happen on movies. We're like reshooting all of it. So anyway, that's what's going on. That's the that's what
I still love Solo. I genuinely, it's probably one of my favorite Star Wars movies coming out of this new era. But you know what? You can have a nuanced opinion, ladies and gentlemen. You can say, I like this, but I don't like that part of it. It's okay to do that sometimes. And that's just thing. I hope maybe them pushing Rise of Skywalker back to December after having it in May, maybe that was them learning a bit, and then taking a several years long break maybe was more learning for them to say, good Star Wars takes time. You can't rush these things. Let's let this happen.
Because that worked out great for the Rise of Skywalker.
Maybe it could have used maybe just next December, but that wouldn't have worked out either. Coming out again, we go back to the Rise of Skywalker coming out in December of 2020. How would have that worked out?
They didn't kill that many people off, so they learned their lesson.
Yeah,
let's just not show them on screen.
Yeah. The Phil Lord tweet from last summer, the Some People Tried tweet, man, I want to know what was in their version.
Oh, yeah, that's one of the top things that we need to see.
I'm not. I don't usually get into the release the whatever cuts because it's just. I'm sorry. I'm not in that. I don't have the energy for that
Yeah,
stuff.
the last one worked well.
Look, if other people want to do it and they do it respectfully and it works, I'm like, bring it on. Let the directors finish their movies. But I don't have the energy or the interest in DC movies, frankly, to get involved. And I'm not advocating for a release the Lord and Miller cut, but I am fascinated by what was in their script. And we know it was the Kasdans that they kind of clashed with. And, I'm curious what they wanted to do, what their scripts, how their scripts varied and all this stuff. I think there's a very interesting movie that got left on the cutting room floor. And the most frustrated I've possibly ever been with Star Wars was when they let those two go. Cause I thought they were exactly the right people to make a great Star Wars movie. Most frustrated I've been with them over an out of universe thing that isn't like, that doesn't matter in the long run, right? Like they do other things that that are more occasionally they'll let somebody in their cast stick around for a little too long. But that's a topic for another day. Let's move on. I want to get to some of the rumors. I have a bunch of other stories. I'm going to skip
a lot.
I'm going to skip them. We'll save some of these. Some of these I want to come back to. There's a great Star Wars Resistance story that's out there, and I want to get to that at some point. But I'm gonna save that for a future week. We'll do the Kazuda cast next week, and bring that back. But I want to get to some of these rumors because they're pretty interesting. So we still don't have a new official intro for the rumor segment, so I won't say those 4 words that you all wish I would say. I'll just say that they're rumors and I've heard about them. This one it has to do with the Ahsoka series. And all of these veer into spoiler-ish territory. I don't think any of them are really major spoilers, but they veer that way. So I'm not going to give a spoiler alert, but if your tolerance for spoilers is extremely low, like won't watch the trailers low or won't watch the trailers or like just a little bit beyond, or will watch the trailers but don't want to know anything more than that, then you might want to consider
we can give let's do a if this was last year, what would it have been? So one of this is kind of similar to like maybe Rosario Dawson's gonna be Ahsoka type level. But we've already sort of talked about the fact that we're going to talk about Sabine, right? Like that's one of them. One of the other ones, let's see, if this were last year, we'd be saying, or if this were Rise of Skywalker, it'd sort of be like saying, actually, no, that doesn't work. I don't know. These are small rumors. There's a small rumors that maybe you don't want to know, but they're not they're nothing major. We're not going to tell you Kylo Ren kills Han Solo. We're not going to tell you Luke Skywalker's showing up in the last episode of The Mandalorian. None of that stuff. We're not going in that territory. It's nothing like that. So let's go with the Ahsoka one. Apparently there's a front runner to play the role of Sabine Wren in live action news. Night's Edge Media is reporting that Tati Gabrielle, who is known for the chilling adventures of Sabrina, is now the front runner to play Sabine in the Ahsoka series. Cool. Still don't know why it's not Tia Sircar. Cool.
Yeah. I mean, for as far as like a second choice go, I mean, I hate to say that, but like, yeah, Tia Sircar, I'm curious why she's not in the running, but like second choice, like I've heard a lot of great things about Tati, and like she could do it. Like she looks the part, like she could totally do it. And I'm looking to see, like, obviously this isn't official yet. It's not even like official in the context of the rumor, which they're saying like she's a front runner. She's not been cast yet, but I want to keep an open mind here. Like yeah. I was not, we've talked about it. I wasn't totally on board with Rosario Dawson, and I ended up, proving myself wrong. So, I'm willing to keep an open mind and go, okay, let's see what you got. They're doing, I trust Filoni to do this right. And, so we'll see.
Yeah. I've never heard of Night Edge Media either. Like, I don't mean to throw shade at them, but I don't know what their track record is. So I'm sort of, and if it turns out that Tati Gabrielle is Sabine, I'll believe everything they say from here on out. And I'm not saying I don't believe them. I'm not saying that either. I'm just saying I've never heard of them. So I don't feel I can speak to their credibility because I don't know. I don't know what it is.
Yep. So yeah, I think she looks the part. Like when I Googled her name, because I didn't, I know I've seen the 100 and the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. So once, but I didn't recognize her name from the credits of that. But once I Googled her, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I know who this is. And yeah, I immediately thought, okay, yeah, I can see her playing Sabine. Like, I can see it. She looks enough like the animated model that like it fits. So I think that at least for the voice or for the face, it's decent casting. And then as far as just like the quality of actor she is, like, it's good too, because she was good in both of those things. And both of those had some really good runs. I think Chilling Adventures might actually, I don't know if that's still happening or if that got canceled. It seems like everything gets canceled after a few seasons. So I don't know.
Yeah, especially on Netflix.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if that's still going, but I enjoyed the first season of it. Second season, I was like, they're going in circles with the character development. And that's usually when I stop watching. If it's not Star Wars and I don't have to talk about it every week, I'm done. I'm done with circles and character development. But she was great in that show, and she was great in the 100. So I think this is a good addition in lieu of the obvious choice that is being overlooked.
Yeah. Yeah. I still haven't seen her in anything, so I can't speak to it. But like you guys, I've Googled it. I see the resemblance with the character. I can see it working. Clearly she's been in popular stuff, so that's a good sign.
Yeah.
I still am waving my flag for Tia Sircar, but if that's not going to happen, okay, I'll wait until I see the episode.
Maybe she said no.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know who says no at Star Wars, but maybe she's like, oh, sorry, I don't really want to do it. Like, it might not be Disney's fault. You don't know.
Yeah. True. So that's what's going on with Ahsoka. What about some stuff with Andor? Another website I've never heard of. Again, doesn't mean that they're wrong. Just I haven't heard of them. And, there's a lot of things I haven't heard of. One Take News, they're reporting that Coruscant and some other prequel trilogy elements will be appearing in Andor. Here's what they write. One Take News is very excited to exclusively report that Andor will take elements from the prequel trilogy throughout the show, and this includes a return to Coruscant and possibly even seeing post-Order 66 clone troopers, specifically some later produced clones and regular Bucketheads. We haven't been told why or how Coruscant will factor into the story, and same with the clones. All we know is that they will be appearing. To further confirm this, we see high society clothing that's commonly seen on Coruscant behind the costume designer in the Andor sizzle reel. Okay, we could have said that about Last Jedi too, and they wound up on Canto Bite, but that's we've talked about it with Last Jedi stuff. We thought there was a chance Canto Bite might be Coruscant, but to be fair to them, we also saw some behind the scenes pictures for Andor that we talked about on the show many months ago. That looked high society and could very well, I'm pretty sure we speculated they could be Coruscant at the time. But I loved seeing the little glimpse of Coruscant in Rogue One.
Yeah.
That's a planet that feels very Star Wars to me because, I grew up with the prequels and those movies, a lot of stuff gets set on Coruscant, and same goes for the Clone Wars. And, we saw a little bit of Coruscant in the last season of Clone Wars, but not a whole lot of it has been seen in the new Star Wars.
I wonder if they're gonna stick with the kind of old expanded universe thing of calling it Imperial Center after the Rise of the Empire.
That would be cool. I'd be down for that.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know. I don't know how the comics have done it, like books and comics like that. I think maybe we've been to Coruscant at some point, but as we've learned, the books and comics also aren't, absolutely reliable sometimes. So who knows? But I like this idea. I think it feels like, as you're saying, like I've never heard of one take news. This is why we're calling this a rumor. We're not talking about this in the regular segment because it very well may not be true. It is a rumor, but this feels along the lines of something that could be potentially, true. And I would totally expect, like, I wouldn't be shocked to see like Coruscant in, one part of the show, and another part of this is, clone troopers. Would be cool to see if we see those new TK troopers from Bad Batch.
Ooh, this brings up something really interesting. So we haven't really seen clone troopers in live action since the prequels, I don't think. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, yeah.
And in the prequels, and this is something I didn't find out a little bit later in life, they were all CGI.
Yeah,
every single one of them.
So you would think that now with the way that they're doing things, they might not do that. So this might be the first time that we see like live clone troopers ever, which could be interesting. Or if they CGI it, then cool. But it seems like they're kind of gone more towards the practical stuff for this, with the way it interacts with the volume and everything, to get that realistic lighting on the prop. So that's fascinating. And then just like with Coruscant in general, like that's my favorite Star Wars planet.
Same.
Like, yeah, because it's like, I've always, as a kid, I was always amazed by how big New York City was. I grew up in, cities that were cities like Minneapolis and Boston that had a little bit of a skyline, but like you could always see where it ended. You just had a big pile of buildings in the middle, and then it calmed down. But I remember seeing New York for the first time and just seeing this wall of buildings, and it just didn't end. It went all the way across the horizon. It was so amazing. So seeing Coruscant and Star Wars, it's like that on, just so it's the entire planet, like that whole thing with Rick Oley telling Anakin, the whole planet's one big city. I'm just there like Anakin, like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. So like, I always love to see more Coruscant. I super nostalgic for those live action clone troopers. So this is one of the ones that, if this rumor isn't true, I will be sad, because I think this is a cool opportunity to ground the story into some Star Wars lore that has a lot of popularity and some stuff that we haven't seen in a while.
And we got in our live chat on YouTube, we've got a couple of interesting sort of people are throwing out ideas for if they go back to Coruscant, who could show up. Doc Holocron says Trace and Rafa.
Ooh.
And E-Man says the Bad Batch or Omega. And I with the Bad Batch, like I'm usually that's the sort of thing where people say people say, oh, this character or that character could show up. And I usually tend to, take a step back from that and sort of go, I don't need 8 characters to show up in everything. But just the way that they're described in the story, the clone troopers are described. It says there's regular Bucketheads and some later produced clone troopers. That sounds like something that sounds like somebody could be describing the Bad Batch if they didn't want to say it's the Bad Batch, or they didn't know what the Bad Batch were.
That's possible. I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
So
that's a good point. I feel like there's a convergence happening. Like you can't have, and it's already, of course, happening with characters like Fang Shan, but like there's a convergence happening. You can't have 10 Star Wars shows and not have some type of crossing over happening, especially when things are happening at the same time in the timeline. So there's so much stuff that is kind of like bottlenecked in the same era, where you have the Bad Batch, you have Kenobi, and you have Andor. Those 3 shows all have potential to really overlap with some of the characters and themes and things that you're seeing. They might show a little piece of the puzzle of the overall story, like of what's going on with the rebellion, with the Empire, with the transition with the clones into the stormtroopers, like all this stuff. And so yeah, I mean, it just makes sense that, you might see some Bad Batch references, or maybe even the Bad Batch, maybe just in the background somewhere, just like Delta Squad was in a scene in Clone Wars. Like,
yeah. Do we know when in the timeline, like specifically, Andor is set?
So I can use that. Okay, so Diego Luna, of course, he's playing himself, and how old would you say Cassian is? When you get to Rogue One, which is in like 0 ABY.
He's like 30 something.
So you can't, he's not going to be playing a much younger version of himself. So I would say that it's probably, I would say it would line up with Star Wars Rebels.
Yeah,
that's where I would put it.
Wikipedia seems to agree with you. They say timeline 5 BBY, 5 before the Battle of Yavin.
But I wouldn't rule out the idea of potentially some flashbacks to maybe post-war Cassian, maybe with a different actor playing him.
Yeah.
And it could be in the era of the Bad Batch. Not necessarily saying that the Bad Batch is going to show up, but like showing it in that transitional area where there would still be clone troopers around, or TK troopers or whatever, and the Empire still taking over. And because I feel like if you're doing Andor, like do it about Andor, like show how he got to where he did in Rogue One, but also give him a little bit of backstory. I think some flashbacks would be nice.
So you could have current Tem playing the Bad Batch. That would line up, because if you look at kind of what Rex and the other clones look like in Rebels, they're kind of getting to the level of aging that Tem is in our universe. So he could definitely show up as an older Bad Batch, and then because Omega is not aging as quickly, she could just be like she'd be like in her 20s.
She'd probably be around Cassian's age.
Yeah,
Probably
this is
around that
true.
age.
They're gonna be really close. Ooh.
At the very least,
shipping
at
time.
the very least, I think that like they could have like Hunter show up, and like I think Tem could like do that, because like they're gonna have to do some major, like to have Tim Morrison play Wrecker. There's gonna be a lot of like CGI enhancements.
That'd be cool though. That'd be cool. I
would love it. Like, can you imagine though? Like, they get the entire Bad Batch. It's all Tim Morrison. They just get him doing different, a la Eddie Murphy, like doing all the parts.
Oh no!
And like they've got him all different. He's got the glasses on for Tech. He's doing thing. He's got the claw arm for Echo. Like, do it all.
If Mark Ruffalo can play the Hulk, then Tim Morrison.
Anything is possible. Anything is possible. Like there's no saying.
So I've tracked it down. StarWars.com does say Andor is 5 years after, or 5 years before Rogue One.
So
I didn't realize they'd done that.
Definitely in that, because and I think they said Rebels was also 5 years before New Hope. So it will line up with season 1 of Rebels.
It can't be like 10 years prior, because like you're having Diego Luna playing 5 years younger himself, even though he's like 5 years older.
Yeah, that would be too much. Yeah.
So what's interesting about that to me is, we say this is all in one era, but we're seeing 3 distinct points.
Yeah.
In this era. And that's, I think that's really exciting, that you'll in watching the 3 shows, you'll get essentially 3 different stories that all tell one story, because you have Bad Batch that's like right after, it's, as we saw, it's the days and the weeks and the months after Revenge of the Sith. Then you'll have Obi-Wan, which is 10 years. So we'll see sort of halfway through. And then we'll see Andor, which is, 5 years left. And it'll kind of take us into the home stretch of the Dark Times era, leading up to, the kind of the end of it, which is Rogue One and A New Hope. And I think that's really interesting. That's really kind of a, we were talking about this on with the Bad Batch on Pod Force 99. Like, how do you do that show and knowing that these characters, no matter what they do, they can't make as big a difference as we want them to until the end, and because we know where it ends. Now that we're going to see this era sort of at 3 different distinct points in it, I think that makes whatever pills we have to swallow in the earlier shows a little bit easier because we'll know where it winds up. And so even though we'll see things get progressively worse, probably, we'll at least understand that the things that Hunter and Wrecker do won't be in vain, because Obi-Wan or somebody Obi-Wan's working with will pick up on them and sort of move that down the field to then be picked up by Cassian, who will get things to where they are in Rogue One, which that gets us to New Hope in the original trilogy, which is, hopeful and, ends with on a nice note. So it's an interesting way of just sort of fleshing out the era, this massive era, all at once. Well, being chronological will also not be in chronological either. I'm intrigued to see how this all plays out next year when we'll have all three of these shows on TV at different points.
Or maybe Omega is just gonna ride a space whale into hyperspace, and we'll see her in a few years. I mean, anything's possible.
Yeah. Well, George set this up way back in this would have been in 1980 when people sat down to watch Star Wars 2, and it starts with Star Wars Episode 5, and everyone was like, wait a minute, how did I miss the last 3 episodes? What just happened? And he set that precedent for, this is not going to happen chronologically. We're going to keep going with this story, but then we're telling you there's other story we're going to go back and we're going to tell, and then after that we're going to go back again, and he set the precedent of not this nonlinear storytelling with all this ring theory stuff that then got retroactively, mentally imposed on it from brilliant analysis. So they're still doing it. It's like way more complicated, but it's still happening. But what you end up with is an even more robust timeline where I'm sure, somebody will list out, all right, here's all the stuff in order. And you can go and start, reading the High Republic books, and then you can watch some of the first 2 prequel films, and then you can watch the Clone Wars, and you can watch Revenge of the Sith, and then you can watch Bad Batch, and then you can watch Kenobi, and then you can watch Andor, and then you can watch Rebels, and then you can watch Rogue One. It's this whole thing, and it's all going to connect, and it's all going to be really cool. But this is for like people 10 years down the road to experience, because we're in the middle of watching it go a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit there. Oh, that connects. That's interesting. It's an interesting view of it.
Yeah, it's like if the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy were being made at the same time.
Yes,
is essentially what we're seeing.
Yep.
Right.
Which is it's gonna be so much fun next year to watch all of this sort of, because we'll literally like I don't know when any of these shows are going to premiere. Any ideas I had are constantly being changed because it seems like they're still shooting Cassian. They're still shooting Andor. Like it feels like
episodes of that, I think.
Yeah, it's 12 episodes, but it's sort of like so I don't know when these things are going to come out, how they're going to come out. We may see season 2 of Bad Batch. That may be the first one. Like, who knows? But we'll go from at some point next year. We'll have season 2 of Bad Batch. We'll have Obi-Wan Kenobi, and we'll have Andor, and it's gonna be quite an experience. All right, let's see. Next up, let's go back to Book of Boba Fett. Got a couple of Book of Boba Fett stories. This first one comes from Latino Review, and they are reporting that another bounty hunter will appear in the Boba Fett show. And it's someone we saw this most recent season on the Bad Batch. Of course, it's the man with the hat, Cad Bane. This is they say it's the same. It comes from the same source who reported to them earlier this year that Bosk would be showing up on the show. So now we'll have Cad Bane as well. So after being away for a few years, Cad Bane is getting a little bit of a renaissance. First in animation on the Bad Batch, and now in live action, it seems, in the Book of Boba Fett. This is one where I really would be surprised if they, if the voice actor from the show doesn't come back, because it's a creature, and so I sort of feel like they'll have someone on set being Cad Bane, either in a costume or a green suit that will then be turned into Cad Bane in post, and then Corey Burton, right? Corey Burton will come in and lend his vocal talents to the role, and this is a character whose I feel like his voice is so tied up in who he is. That I feel like if you took the voice away from Cad Bane, like, you know, love Ahsoka, love Sabine, and obviously love the voice actors who played those roles. But you, as we're seeing, you can have other people play those roles and still have it still be those roles, or those characters. With Cad Bane, I don't know if he doesn't sound, if whoever plays him doesn't at least sound like Corey Burton. Like Rosario Dawson sounds nothing like Ahsoka, and sounds nothing like Ashley Eckstein, and that's you know, that was something that took a little getting used to for me. But I feel like if Cad Bane shows up and he sounds completely different than Corey Burton, I'll be like, that's not Cad Bane. That's somebody who looks like him. That's Cad Bane's, you know, someone impersonating him.
But that one's hard because like his voice is very, you know, a lot of the characters about the voice and like the effects that they put on the voice. It's kind of like dissimilar with Darth Vader, where it's like only so many people can really do a good Darth Vader and do that James Earl Jones. It's like that level of uniqueness.
Well, and it's like, you know, we've talked about it before, and this applies to like a lot of cinema characters, but like, you know, you can identify a character based on their silhouette. You can look at them and go like, oh yeah, you see the Vader or whatever, you know, those are big things. You can definitely do it with Cad Bane, but I think the voice also has something to do with it. You hear their voice as they do in Bad Batch. I'm pretty sure you hear, wasn't much work. Like you hear that voice, you're like, oh my God, it's Cad Bane, because you hear that voice. I think it would like, I don't want to like say it's not gonna work if they don't do this, because like I've been wrong before, but I think like you'd be remiss not to get Corey Burton back to do that voice, and you know, do it with, I don't know, someone in a suit with animatronic face, or is it CGI face, or is it a completely CGI character? I don't know. He's humanoid, so someone could be in a suit. I'm curious as how they're gonna pull it off, how and make him believable.
I think Elor, I gave him this French name. It's just something I did as a kid. His actual name is not French. Elor's Madoc is I believe the name of the only Duros character we've seen in live action. But I used to call him Elor Madoc. I don't know why. I just thought his name looked French. But like,
is he the dude in the cantina?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's in the spacesuit. He looks like an alien.
It's amazing we haven't seen more Duros in live action. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is weird. But yeah, I mean, you know, the Duros costume in A New Hope, like it's one of those early ones, right? Like it's you know, I don't know if that would have worked for an entire movie. But you know, whatever you think of the Neomoidians, they made them work pretty well in the prequels, and so you continue improving on that technology. You use CG to enhance it, to create it, to make it even better. I'm excited to see this. I think this is going to look good. But I want the voice. I want the voice.
And I think for the story, I think this makes a lot of sense. If you're doing a Boba Fett story, someone who we never really saw them interact outside of that one moment, like one small moment in season 4 Clone Wars when they're doing the prison break thing. Like you never really see them interact, but like obviously with the whole showdown thing, which apparently has maybe happened because he's got a plate in his head, like those characters intertwined. And I think you having Boba come back and do this whole new story with him, the Book of Boba Fett, naturally you slide Cad Bane in there, and we've heard other rumors about Bosk and stuff like that, who are also pretty pivotal to his character. I'm sure Ura Singh would probably show up if she was still alive, if had that or guy and killed her and thrown her off a cliff.
That is the only reason why I want to hashtag release the Lord Miller cut. That's it. I don't care about anything else. I just don't want that scene. That didn't happen.
That's a Ron Howardism. He really just decided.
Okay, I'm going to give you an out here.
All right.
Beckett says, I pushed her. Pretty sure the fall killed her. Again, is there a body? Is she actually dead? We've known people to fall from very high places and survive. A la Maul, a la Palpatine. Just add Ura to the mix. Let's just establish that no one ever dies in Star Wars, all right? Because
she's a dormant Force user because she was a Force user, and then the Clone Wars came in and decided she wasn't a Force user, but she is.
I don't know. George, I'm going with what George said, and George made the Clone Wars. But you never know. These things have a way of circling back. But why might Cad Bane be in this story? You might be asking. Well, for that, let's turn to a report from Star Wars Newsnet. This doesn't actually relate to Cad Bane specifically, but you'll see the connection in a second. They're reporting that the Book of Boba Fett is, quote unquote, a revenge story. Here's what they say. Boba Fett is in revenge mode. He's going after everyone who did him wrong in the past, and he will be looking for the other and he will also be looking for the other bounty hunters. And even more, he'll be doing it with a new look to his armor. What? So yeah, so that I don't understand that last part, because like, is it new as in the armor from last season, or is it or last season of Mando, or is it new as in something new compared to that? Because
I mean, they say even more, which kind of means that they're referring internally to their what they were saying before. So I would suggest it's new.
It's new, and looking at the Newsnet article, it does seem to suggest that it's new. It's really new. So we'll see. I
mean, I'm not the biggest fan of the whole like repainted armor thing. Like, I loved the old look with like all the battle damage. Like, I thought that was super cool. So like the Boba 2.0 or 3.0, if you include the Clone Wars version, is not my favorite design. So I would be interested to see if they could update that again.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't understand why they updated the armor at all.
Yeah,
it's like, don't mess with perfection.
Yeah, exactly. You have that is some of the most iconic armor. Like, you know how many people will drop like the price of an automobile to get a good screen accurate version of that armor on them for a convention. Like.
Yeah.
The only logical reason that I've heard floated around is that maybe that they want to tell the difference between like flashback Boba and like regular, like current day Boba, because
Tem looks the same.
Well, because like, I think we're gonna get that flashback to him getting out of the Sarlacc pit. Like, I think we're gonna get that, and that's gonna be him. So I think that might work. Still, though.
But he's not gonna be wearing his armor at that point, is he though? Because Cad Bane has it.
You're right.
So there's no reason for them to have done this. This is a travesty. This is like somebody made a beautiful tag by the highway and someone just spray paints over it with black paint. Like, no.
Maybe we get to, Book of Boba Fett season 1 and Fennec walks in and he's just sanding down his armor. He's like, I didn't like this paint job. Yeah. That's his new armor.
Yes, that would be wasn't there a moment about a Jedi weapon deserves more respect or something that was kind of similar to that?
Right. Yeah. Rise of Skywalker. Yep.
Yeah.
You never know.
But anyways, the whole point, I'm going back to the revenge thing, because Boba Fett wants revenge on the people. You all right there, Ben?
Yes, I'm fine. I just spilled my drink, but there was no. Oh, actually, there was something in it. I made a mess. I'll be right back.
All right. Well, Ben will be back in due course. But Boba Fett is after revenge. He wants revenge on the people that have wronged him, and I get the impression, sometimes people talk about bounty hunters like they're all on the same team. I've never liked that. I like the idea that they're kind of competitors.
Oh yeah, they are.
Yeah. And I would like to see, Cad Bane and Boba Fett. That's something we wanted to see on Clone Wars. We wanted to see them go up against each other.
Yeah.
And if we're not going to get that Clone Wars arc, let's do a live action.
Mm-hmm.
And let's have there be an episode where one of the people that Boba Fett is going after is Cad Bane.
Oh, that was so cool.
Yeah, and the show is called The Book of Boba Fett. Maybe the Book of Boba Fett is like Boba Fett's list of people that he wants, that he has to get. And on there you got Cad Bane, maybe Cobb Vanth is on there because he took the armor. I don't know who else, some other bounty hunters, Dengar, maybe, some new
What
characters.
is this starting to sound like? Dominic, a bounty hunter has no name.
Hey, the whole thing about wearing the mask is that you're a faceless man.
That's right.
Boba does seem like the kind of guy who would say his list out loud before he goes to sleep every night.
Yep.
Cad Bane, Bosk, Dengar, Cersei, the Hound.
I'm down for that.
Yeah, we'll get them all. So I just throw that out there. I figure there's got to be more to it, to the show than that, but that certainly could be an element. We see in the teaser or the post-credit scene for Mando season 2, whatever you want to call that. He goes and he takes that seat of power on Tatooine. So presumably there are going to be people that want to challenge his claim to that. So I feel like that's going to be part of it. And then I'm wondering, the people have said this is like season 2.5 of Mando. I feel like Din Djarin's going to show up, and there's going to be some elements of this that really factor into the larger story as well. And so, if that's the way it goes, 1 is Boba getting revenge, 2 is people challenging Boba's authority, and 3 is something related to the larger story of Mando. Like that's a lot to put into 4, 6, 7, 8 episodes already. In addition to any sort of, adventure of the week aspects that there may be to them. So this is intriguing to me. I'm excited. I'm really interested to see how Star Wars does an anti-hero story. Because we've never had that. Even Mandalorian, they kind of marketed it as an anti-hero story, but by the end of the 3rd episode, he's a hero. Like there's no ambiguity to it anymore.
Yeah. This could be more along the lines of like comparison to like the Marvel Netflix stuff where you have Daredevil kind of like this. Oh, is he or isn't he? You understand, like, yeah, he's a good guy. But then you bring in the Punisher. He's an actual like anti-hero. So Boba Fett could be the Punisher for this universe where he's, going in and doing some bad stuff. You're rooting for him, but you're like, this guy's doing some bad stuff.
Like he's going after bad people. We won't feel
he's going back worse people than him.
Yeah. We won't feel sympathy for the people that Boba Fett goes after, but we may not be crazy about the methods he uses either. It's not the sort of thing we would expect from Luke Skywalker.
No disintegration.
Or even Han Solo.
Just based on their actions at the end of season 2, like something's different about Boba Fett because like he goes in and like him and Fennec are like killing all the bad guys, and then they free the slaves, and they let it all go. Like there's some heroic hint to it, but he still sits on the throne. He's not like, I'm gonna get rid of this throne and there's gonna be no crime lords. It's like, nah, I'm king of the hill now. Like, there's still something there.
He doesn't open his mouth and breathe some fire and melt the throne down. There's none of that going on here. That's what's going on with Book of Boba Fett. Let's talk a little Obi-Wan Kenobi. This is also from Star Wars Newsnet. And they're talking a little bit about what Hayden Christensen's role is going to be in this and how we might be seeing him. So basically we'll be seeing one of the things that they say was built for Obi-Wan Kenobi was a massive Bacta tank.
Ooh.
So we will be sort of like what we saw in Rogue One, right? And how in Rogue One, the Vader's body gets lifted out of that thing. It sounds like we'll see a more intensive version of that, where unlike Rogue One, where, let's be honest, they've really tried to make it look not like Hayden.
Yeah.
We'll actually see Hayden in there. And we'll see some scenes with him sort of as the Vader who's outside the suit in the show, in addition to presumably some flashbacks and stuff.
And in the article, you can go over to Star Wars News and actually read the articles. They go pretty in depth, and they have some I think actual concept art, and then some of it is like artist renditions of like what they were told about. And one of the things is a breath mask, like a prop breath mask that you would would see Vader wear in, a back tank or whatever. And that led them to believe okay, this isn't just like a mannequin or whatever in a big back to tank like we saw in Rogue One. This is actually Hayden wearing this, all, Vadered up like he was, I guess, in Revenge of the Sith, but a little bit more wear on him. And, maybe, I don't know, maybe we'll see him, how does this work? I'm envisioning something along the lines of, I don't really like it, but I could see them doing it in what you see at the end of The Force Unleashed, where Vader gets really messed up. You can see his face, but it's
or
still
like in Twilight of the Apprentice and on Rebels when you can see.
Right. I think anytime, because that's a thing with movies and people that wear costumes. You constantly see it. Pay attention in movies. If you have a character that's wearing a mask, they're gonna take it off. They're they'll find a way to destroy the things, a la Kylo Ren, or in the deleted scenes for Solo, you have these big TIE fighter helmets, but they have one with the clear masks. And then you have the clone helmets, the clone things, and they have the one with the clear mask. They want to see your face. You want to have an actual performance. And I think any point where they can have Vader, but actually have Hayden do a performance as Darth Vader, that's going to be interesting. Even though the logic of if you destroy his suit, he should die because that's what happens in Return of the Jedi. I never really liked that in End of Force Unleashed. His suit is just totaled, but he survives it somehow.
Yeah. I still what I wish they would do and still maybe hold out a little hope they might is have Obi-Wan and Anakin actually fight, where it looks like Revenge of the Sith, and the way they do that is through some kind of Force Skype thing, sort of into what Rey and Kylo do in the sequels.
That's kind of what I'm expecting. I'm expecting something. I don't think that it's going to be whether they have one fight or whatever. It may not. I think it will be physical, but it may not be. It could be something that's in the mind. Maybe they don't intentionally meet, but it's something world between world shenanigans where they meet and they duel, but it's something less physical.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be physical. They're not going to hype this thing up as the rematch of the century and then do Obi-Wan versus Maul on Rebels, right? There's this thing, whatever it winds up being, they're going to throw down. It's just, it might be interesting if they did some kind of trickery, as we're saying, so that they don't have to be in the same place, or that you don't have to have the Vader suit be involved, because I feel that's got to be difficult to fight in. Let's ask Dave Prowse and Bob Anderson, right?
Right.
I wonder what, you look at how they're dressed and what those fights look like in, well, let's say Empire Strikes Back and Jedi, because we'll leave A New Hope out of the equation for right now. And those are pretty very exciting, very skilled duels. But then, look how Ray Park or Ewan or Hayden are dressed in Phantom Menace or Revenge of the Sith, and look at those duels in comparison.
Yeah.
It's a completely different art form almost.
Yeah.
But I think they have a scenario, and we just throw some comments on the screen, the fact that some people are still wait, they're actually doing this? They're actually going to have Obi-Wan and and Vader fight? And I'm they're actually doing this. If I hadn't heard Kathleen Kennedy say it on stage in front of thousands of people, I would be there's no way this is happening, but it's actually happening. So some people are going to be like me, where okay, show me what you got. I'm here. Yeah. Other people are going to be oh, no, but hell no, that's not right. That just goes against canon and all this kind of stuff. I'll be interested to see if they try to toe that line of finding a duel, some kind of duel, but not a duel that makes both parties happy. That if you want to see Vader and Obi-Wan fight, here it is. But also, if you don't want them to meet between Revenge of the Sith and New Hope, that's also technically correct. Or because people, if it's canon, they're upset about it. People don't have head cannons.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm in sort of in the camp of, I'm in the same camp as you, Ben, where it's show me what you got, but if you had asked me beforehand, I would have said no. They shouldn't fight. They should.
Yeah.
They should keep it the how it was. But now that it's happening, I'm determined to enjoy it. I'm determined to see what happens at the very least. All right, that's what we got for rumors for this week. Lots of interesting stuff going down. Lots of stuff to look forward to at the end of this year, and of course, all through next year as well. All right, as promised, let's get to some listener emails. I don't know if we'll get through them all, but let's certainly talk about a few of them. We will start this week with this one from Robin. Robin's talking a little bit about the Bad Batch. They write, "Hi, you've talked many times about how you think the legacy characters took over Rebels and shifted focus away from the main characters of Rebels too much. This is something I've always disagreed with. The Rebels characters were always the main character in their own show, and I think the legacy characters only added to that show. So I was surprised to hear the fact that Cham and Harris being the main character. So I was surprised to hear the fact that you liked that Cham and Hera were the main characters in Devil's Deal, and the Bad Batch were essentially just a cameo in that episode. So can you explain to me why it's okay for legacy characters to guest star, why it's not okay for legacy characters to guest star in Rebels alongside the Rebels characters, but meanwhile on the Bad Batch, it's okay for the legacy characters to essentially take over the show for an episode, while the Bad Batch end up being just a cameo in their own show?"
This one's mainly for me, I think, because I'm the one with the closest opinion to what he's describing.
Yeah, go for it.
So I feel like this is very directed at my opinions. I think the difference between the two is it's not just about characters we've seen before. Like, just because we've seen a character before doesn't mean that they have the power to shift the energy of a show away from other characters. I think the problem that happened when Ahsoka and Vader and Maul showed up on Rebels is it changed the overall plot of the entire story. It made it about what's going on with those three characters. And I feel like the Rebels characters, the Ghost Crew, became kind of secondary to what was going on with Ahsoka and Vader and Maul. And those characters from the Clone Wars were the ones that were driving kind of the story and the plot forward, and it was their universe, and the Ghost Crew was just kind of playing along with what was happening with them. Whereas when you look at Cham, Syndulla, and Hera, they don't have that weight. They don't have the weight to change the dynamic of the whole show. Like, the whole season 1 of the Bad Batch didn't become about Ryloth just because they showed up. You had to deal with it in a few episodes, and that was it. And then the focus was right back to what's going on Kamino, what's going on with the Empire, what's going on with Crosshair, and then that ended up taking us through the finale. It didn't become the big thing, the finale, the season opener. You look at those big episodes of Rebels, so many of them that ended and began seasons were all about Ahsoka and Maul and Vader, and not as much about the original cast of the show. Whereas you look at the Bad Batch, you look at the biggest episodes of the Bad Batch, they're still all touch points on what's big moments in the lives of the Bad Batch. So I think that it's different there. I think you could have done that if you had brought, Ahsoka and Vader into the Bad Batch in season 1. Maybe you could have repeated that problem. But again, because you already told that story of Ahsoka finding out about Vader's Anakin and played that whole thing out, story's been told. So there's really not many characters left to come in and kind of override it, since they already did that. So Rebels, if anything, kind of took the fall a little bit for the Bad Batch. It dealt with a lot of important storylines after Revenge of the Sith and those characters when they were older, so that you don't need to do it again. And then new shows could come in and, kind of stand on their own and not have to answer those questions that are looming out there. Like the big questions, like where's Maul? What's going on with Ahsoka and Vader's relationship?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think what it comes down to, because I agree with what you're saying, is it comes down to the fact that it was 2 episodes out of 16.
Yeah.
As opposed to being something that ran through the entire season, because to me with Rebels season 2, it was hard to focus on what was going on with the Rebels characters because I was more interested in the Ahsoka Vader storyline. Like you're saying, it took over. That's what I wanted to see. And so any episode that wasn't dealing with that, there was sort of an extra pressure on it to make it feel essential and important. And then when you wind up with a bunch of episodes that are, average, not bad, pretty good, but not the highest of highs that show knew how to hit at times, they wound up feeling a little bit like, oh, come on, like I want to see the other thing. And then it's why people use that word that I don't like a lot, the F word, filler. They're not filler. They certainly aren't. Like, we know where the story winds up now. They definitely weren't that. But at the time, what we wanted to see, or what I wanted to see, was the Ahsoka Vader story. And so they felt like distractions from that.
Yep.
And I said it. I said it whatever many times in those Ryloth episodes. It's so weird that the Bad Batch were a cameo in their own show. That is so weird. That is like not a normal thing to happen. That is so strange. But I feel like the second half of the episode, the second episode, I can't remember what it was called. I think it was like Liberty on Ryloth or something. No, that's a Clone Wars episode.
Yeah, that's
Rescue on Ryloth.
Rescue on Ryloth. Thank you. That episode was an important story in the Bad Batch, and it was an important story for Omega. And you needed the first half to tell that second half. And so we wind up with a weird episode, but I felt like they wound up weaving Hera's story in with Omega's story better. And I feel like they wound up weaving Cham's story in better with Hunter's, because they took that first episode to actually set up the stakes on Ryloth, because that's what that first episode does. And then the second episode comes in, and we already know what the stakes are for the Bad Batch because we've been following them for 10 episodes up until that point. And so it wound up working. I think it works really well. I don't want the show to become a situation where the Bad Batch are cameos in their own episodes every week or every other week or every third week even. Like, if that happens once or twice a season, okay. But more than that, then I think we'll start running into the same problem that we ran into on Rebels, which is that will be distracting from the story that we're supposed to be following, which is Hunter, Omega, Wrecker, Tech, and Echo, and Crosshair, obviously. And so that's sort of where I come down on it. Is it has to do with the specific stories that were being told and how they're being told, because this still was a Bad Batch story, even though it took an episode that they were barely in to set it up.
Yeah, like the biggest difference that I can see is like if this was a sitcom and you're crediting the people, like in Rebels, Maul would be a series regular. Like he would be someone that's a reoccurring star.
He'd be the one who'd get he wouldn't be in the opening titles, right? He wouldn't be in the thing that shows, but he'd be the first one that crops up when you get back to the episode and it says special guest star Darth Maul. Like that's what Maul, Ahsoka, and the rest of them would have been.
I mean, I'm looking at the season 3 poster for Star Wars Rebels. And, you got Ezra is on the bottom. He's like the smallest. And then Sabine is like a little bigger, probably just because she's taller and not crouching. Then Thrawn's like pretty big, but then there's a giant Darth Maul head right above them. And he's like the big one.
Because when you have Darth Maul in your show, you're going to capitalize on that. I get it. But like for like Bad Batch, it's like, they were almost like true cameos or like true special guest stars in the sense that like it's a famous person, not a famous actor, but a famous character showing up for one episode or 2 episodes to kind of drive the plot for a bit, but then leave it. I'm not personally right now. I can't remember what my opinions were on Rebels, to be honest. But like for right now, just looking at it, I'm thinking like, I don't see a bad way to do it either way. I think both can work. You can have new characters show up. Like it's different to us because it's Darth Maul, it's Ahsoka Tano, it's Darth Vader. But for a random person watching, it's just a new character showing up. And they're driving the plot now. They're part of the cast and they're moving things, and that's what you want characters to do. You want characters to affect the plot, especially with Rebels being character driven, all this kind of stuff. Like, it makes sense. Or just having someone show up for one episode, and that's what it is. I don't think there's really a inherently bad way to do that, but I enjoyed Bad Batch more, if I'm being honest. I think I enjoyed how Bad Batch did it versus Rebels. Kind of, I don't know. The thing, Rebels is something that I've come around on. I'm not as negative as I was, back in the day. I really need to go back and watch some of it. So, like, I don't have any strong opinions anymore about it, but like, Bad Batch, I think, did it really, really well.
Yeah, I agree. So that's where we're at. That's where we're at with that. Thank you for the email, Robin. It's an excellent question, and it's a fair point to bring up.
Yeah.
Like, well, if you think we're being unfair to something, or you think we're sort of judging things by different scales.
Double-bladed lightsaber standards.
Yeah,
if you're gonna call hypocrites, well, guilty as charged.
Yeah. Send it in, because it's fair. I think you can certainly have listened to what we said about Rebels and say, hey, wait a minute, they weren't even in the episode. Anyway,
that is pretty unprecedented. Like, having.
It's so weird.
The characters, like, I like that episode. I'm not bashing it. I'm just saying it's weird having the main characters have cameos.
I mean, the thing is, like, we just gone off of 7 seasons of the Clone Wars, where Obi-Wan, Ahsoka, Rex, and Anakin, and Padme, who were like the ostensibly main cast of the Clone Wars, were in like half the episodes. And so, like, for me, it wasn't weird, because like, you're still kind of like halfway through this new season that's relatively short. You're not too far removed from being used to characters just showing up and then disappearing and coming back 2 seasons later. So for me, as someone that has always thought that Star Wars animation is at its best when it's in an anthology, I was like, whatever, this is cool. They should be doing more of this. Like, the show should have been called The Dark Times. Yeah, you can have the Bad Batch be the new main cast, but let's show some other Dark Times stuff going on. Like, let's see what's going on with Ryloth and Onderon and all those things. Like, that's cool.
Speaking of putting Star Wars in theaters, stitch those 2 episodes together, make them a whole 1-hour episode, and put it in the theater. And then it actually works, because we're used to Star Wars characters, the main Star Wars characters, like, showing up like 30 minutes into the movie. We've seen A New Hope. We've seen The Phantom Menace. We don't necessarily expect the main character to show up within the first 10 minutes.
And you have to...
It took 2 hours and 10 minutes for Luke Skywalker to show up in The Force Awakens.
Right? Our Mark Hamill's just thumbing through that script like, oh, they keep mentioning me. I'm a big part of this movie. They keep mentioning me, waiting for me to come in. Wait a minute, this is the last page? What? Oh? I mean, no, I think that if you bring in either characters that are new completely, or they're characters that are new to a particular show, you have to spend the time to develop them. You can't just have them show up and then it be about the main cast. I feel like the stakes are not raised high enough. Your emotional attachment isn't there unless you give those characters that time. And that's why I, have always disliked. I mean, I think one of my issues with Star Wars animation that I've had, with the exception of Clone Wars season 7 since 2013, is this concept of we need to fit a story into 22, 23, 24 minutes, because like, you don't have time if you want to put a complete story in there with both your main cast and your new characters. You don't have a lot of time to make you care about the new characters. And that's why the 2 ways to do that are to have like a 40-minute episode or longer, like Doctor Who. I mean, there's so many episodes of Doctor Who where, yeah, it's about the Doctor and whoever his companions are, but you have like 20-30 minutes that we didn't even know because they devoted the time to it. And so like, you have to either have these longer episodes, or if you're going to do short episodes, you have to have arcs. You have to have a full episode that's cut into chapters, like they did with all of the Clone Wars stories. All of the best Clone Wars stories are multi-chapter stories where it's one long 40 or 60 or even like almost 90-minute long episode cut up. And that's, of course, why the first episode of The Bad Batch is one of the greatest episodes, in my opinion, because you have to reacquaint us with the Bad Batch and you have to make us care about Omega. And they did, because they gave us the time.
So like that's why it seemed weird because of the format, because this is an episodic show that should be about the Bad Batch every episode, but like you really don't have a choice. If you want us to really care about what's going on on Ryloth, really care about Hera and her family, you have to spend that time, or otherwise those episodes are not as good. And yeah, you end up with an episode with just Crosshair and Omega in it and not much Bad Batch, but yeah, you have no choice. You have to do that because of the way that they've constructed things.
It made the second episode even better because, like I said, we spent 10 episodes with the Bad Batch prior to that. Then we spent an episode with Hera and her family. And so we understand what the stakes are for both of them. And then you put them together for that second episode, and it makes the lessons and the adventures more meaningful because we know what it means for them. It's like I said, it's weird. I continue to think it's weird, but it worked. I can't argue. Weird works sometimes. Weird does not mean bad.
And Joel brings up a good point in the chat. He's saying that he doesn't agree with my theory, that because he thinks that there are other animated shows, I assume outside of Star Wars, that have 22-minute episodes that do it well. And he just thinks Star Wars has not been able to do it in 22 minutes, but it's possible. And you know what? I'll say yes, definitely. I mean, look at how much they made us care about some of the characters in the Clone Wars micro series in 5 minutes. Like you can make us care. I know you don't agree with that, Dominic.
I don't. Yeah, I didn't care about any of those characters.
Dominic, for the audio listeners, this is why you need to watch YouTube. You get to see Dominic's faces when I talk, which I'm sure you've been seeing in your head for 10 years. I'm sure you can see those faces in your head. But
what characters do we care about on that show? Like,
I mean,
Anakin, sure, Obi-Wan, sure, Padme, sure, but we care about them from the other movies.
I mean, I care about that ARC trooper, Fordo. I think he's pretty freaking cool. I care about him.
Cool. I will not argue that he's cool. That was
all visual. It was just him being awesome.
Yeah, doing this and that, and it's all cool. But
Kit Fisto is pretty cool. Mace episode.
Shag Guy,
awesome.
Come on now. How can you not care about him?
Right.
Yoinks.
But anyway, the thing is, like, if you want to be really succinct about it, I mean, I've seen so many. There's this great YouTube channel called Omeletto that has like 20-minute mini movies in it. It's like all the best short films. Somehow they've bought the rights to all of them to put for free on YouTube. It's the best thing ever. Please go there. Unless you need to get some job done or homework or something, then don't go there because you can get sucked in. Like, oh, it's just another 20-minute movie. 10 movies later, oh my gosh, the sun's coming up. But like, you can have a 20-minute story and have full character development and have all these elements, but you have to be so on the money with every word, every scene, every facial expression. Everything has to be pointed at a certain like emotional movement in the brains of the people watching it. Like you have to be so psychologically on point with it. And, it's tough to do that in a show that is kind of more of a general audience show where a lot of it's about the budget of the production and moving a plot forward, and there's all these moving pieces. It's hard to focus on really intense, quick, succinct writing because that's just not the style that Star Wars does. Now, I very much expect to watch Star Wars Visions. I think they're going to do that because when you're a studio and you have the opportunity to make one Star Wars thing and that's it, and even if it's 10 minutes, you're going to put the amount of time that most people would put into a movie into those 10 minutes, and you'll be able to cut it down to have every moment mean something, every single second matter. And yes, you can do that. And I've seen, animated series that have done this before. I mean, some of the Paul Dini episodes of the old Batman series from the 1990s. I mean, I really cared about like Mr. Freeze. Like that Mr. Freeze episode that was 20 minutes was like incredible. Like you really felt for what happened to him and understood why, he became a villain, and it is like a tragic story of this horrible accident that happened to him. So it's like you can do that. But again, it's just if you're trying to make all these episodes and you're trying to kind of move a plot forward and you're kind of trying to be just like a workhorse show that's kind of tying things together and keeping things going, it's really hard to do that. And so when you do that, it's a lot easier to give yourself some more space to breathe and do it in a little bit longer of a time span.
Well, and the other thing is the scope of the show. right? Like if you want the shows to do big set pieces, then you have to build up to them. You know, you bring up a short film, you know, short films tend to focus in on a small moment. You don't get you don't get the Death Star run is not a short film, right? Like that, you can watch that as in and of itself, and it's a little exciting piece, but it doesn't carry the same weight unless you've seen the rest of the movie. And so you do a short film and you do a little vignette, and yes, you put all of the emotion into it, but it's generally a smaller story. It doesn't go as big as I think they want to on some of these Star Wars shows, and so as a result, you need a little more time, which is what you were saying in the first place.
Yeah.
That's. I just wanted to add that. In as well, because I like think of the Pixar shorts, like they're little stories. They're wonderful and adorable, and I love that movie, and I even have a distant connection to that one. It's very small in scope, but it's a wonderful story and it's incredible.
We're talking about Bow.
Yeah.
For anybody that's not watching, which you need to.
Right. I can't remember why I wanted to bring that up, but that was just something I thought about as you were talking. I just wanted to add that in too, because Bad Batch is trying to do something cinema quality in terms of scope, and so you need a little bit more time for that. And that's why you do that weird episode, so you can have it.
Yeah,
you can have it both ways, or you can try at least.
It's the best of both worlds.
All right, let's chill out, take it slow, and read the next email. This one comes from Jesse. And this one says, good evening, SWU. In a recent episode, you touched on new additions to the High Republic book releases. I have read Light of the Jedi and am experiencing it again in audio format. The next book I have to read in both formats, visual and audio, is Into the Dark. I'm not trying to read every single thing the High Republic releases, and would like to focus on one major story that they cover in the time period. What would you recommend for the most cohesive story? And also, something I've noticed in my listen to Light of the Jedi, I'm not a big fan of books that jump in the timeline. I feel like a chapter 1 that takes place in the future with everything else being set in the past chronologically, that's how that word is said, works better than how the High Republic does it in book 1, constantly jumping around to different time frames out of chronological order. What are your thoughts on the time skipping that takes place in Light of the Jedi? And would you prefer to have the story presented Jesus, why can't I speak? Chronologically?
It's a mouthful.
Or leave it as it is. As always, the podcast opens my eyes to viewpoints I wouldn't always consider, and enjoy exploring those thoughts. May the Force be with you. Well, thank you very much, Jesse. I'll answer the first part first, which is, I think if you want to read the main story, I think the Del Rey books are the ones to go to. So that's Light of the Jedi and The Rising Storm are the two that are available now, and then the third one comes out early next year. I think it's called Fallen Star, and it's by Claudia Gray. So it'll be good.
Just for record, like I think I've read a few of the other novels, but I mostly just read those two, and you get a pretty good picture of like what's going on. Like you're not totally lost. Like you will characters will show up and you're like, who is this guy? Who is this girl? Like and you're like, okay, I must have missed something, but like you're getting most of it. So it's a pretty complete picture.
And those do follow a couple of main characters, like Bell.
There's a lot of
Stellan
over,
Elzar. Like those are characters that are sort of the main ones in those books that you are following a set of characters, a main character set. It's the sort of the secondary and tertiary characters that sometimes you go like, hey, who is this person again? And if you'd read the other stuff, then you'd know, oh, it's the person from that book. But it's less. What's
his name? Ram Jamma or whatever his name is.
Ramajamma Bama.
That guy like shows up like, I know this guy. I was from another story.
Yeah, when that guy shows up, it's it's like it almost feels like a little trailer for one of the other books in the middle of Rising Storm. But I think Light of the Jedi, Rising Storm, and Fallen Star, though, I think that trilogy will tell the main story of Phase 1 of the High Republic. So I would go with that. And as I said previously, Rising Storm is one of the best Star Wars books in years. It's not even just a good Star Wars book. It's a good book. It's a good read.
Oh yeah.
It was one of those can't put it down. Like really wanted to know what happened next stories. Onto the Light of the Jedi thing. I didn't quite feel the same way. I guess for me, it wasn't so much jumping around in chronological order in those opening chapters as it was we were seeing a bunch of things that were sort of happening all at once. Because if you haven't read Light of the Jedi, basically the way it works is the first several chapters are almost like little mini vignettes. They're little like short stories almost of people experiencing the great disaster. So in the first chapter, you see sort of the great disaster start to happen. This is if my memory is holding up right about how Light of the Jedi plays out. You start with the great disaster start happening, and then you jump around to different places on different planets and see people reacting to it. And kind of like what we were just talking about, the different vignettes, the different short stories work varying degrees of effectiveness. Some of them you really feel for the people in there, and some of them you're like, okay, well, that was fine. Next chapter, please. It's a unique way of telling a story, right? Like it's not, Rising Storm is a much more traditional book of like chapter 1, then chapter 2, then chapter 3, then chapter 4 with all the same characters. Whereas Light of the Jedi does feel a little bit like an anthology for the first several chapters, where you don't have a character to latch onto. You're just following this event. And so it's a little bit, it is a little different, but I liked it. I think it worked to show, it put us on the ground during the great disaster. And it really, it took it out. It wasn't something that was like, mechanical, that was sort of happening, that was academic, that we were hearing about. We were there with different people, with different characters experiencing it. It's sort of like if you're reading about something in our history of World War II or something, or like the evacuation of Dunkirk, right? Like it's the difference between watching The Darkest Hour and watching Dunkirk, the movie, right? Like Darkest Hour is like, you're seeing the big movers and shakers. You're seeing Churchill and all the people that he's working with trying to get the soldiers off the beaches on Dunkirk, and so but you're not actually on Dunkirk. You're not seeing their stories. Dunkirk is about the people who were on the beach and what it was like to be on the beach waiting to be rescued. And so Light of the Jedi, the opening chapters are really, they feel more like Dunkirk, the movie, because you're like seeing all of these people experience the great disaster. And then as the story goes on, then you start to hear from the Jedi and other characters who are sort of the more Churchill and other, big movers and shakers, people who are, making the decisions that are affecting the people on the ground. But those decisions, to me, it worked because those decisions carried extra weight because we had already seen what it was like on the ground. We knew what it was like to be on the beach. We'd seen Dunkirk. So now when you're watching The Darkest Hour, those decisions carry extra weight because you know what it was like to be there waiting, just waiting for somebody to come and rescue you while the Nazi army is literally closing in on you.
And I think what one thing I did like about like Light of the Jedi is that it didn't just tell you when you were, it told you where you were, and kind of will like set up in the chapter, say, hey, it's so and so, and kind of like, and one thing that someone even is listening to books, I'm like, okay, where am I? Who am I dealing with? I can get pretty confused very quickly. It's like, what's going on? So that was better. And it kind of like would kind of like go, okay, you're on this planet and it's 40 minutes to impact. And, you're kind of engaging of like, okay, how far away is it from this particular place? It was jarring a bit at times. I get if it's not for everybody, but I enjoyed that because it was like this different things, but it still was kind of keeping you in line and showing you where you were.
Yeah, I agree. All right, we've done 2 emails, but it's also midnight, so I think we have to call it. So we've got more to get to. Joel, Doc Holocron, Nate, we will get to you. If not next week, then soon. And anybody else that wants to send in emails, swunderworld@gmail.com is the place to send them. And we will be trying to get to them more promptly than we have been in the last little while. But now that we're into the new rhythm of things, hopefully we'll be able to get to these a little bit quicker and a little bit more regularly, so that we aren't reading emails that people sent in literally months ago, as was the case with at least the first one. So swunderworld@gmail.com is the place to send it. And with that, we'll begin to wrap things up for this week.
All right. We want to thank everybody so much for joining us for this episode of the Star Wars Underworld podcast. Of course, we will be back with another episode, same time, same place next week with more breaking news and discussion. Where is that place, you might ask? It is on YouTube, on the Star Wars Underworld YouTube channel. Search for the Star Wars Underworld. Watch that amazing test footage from Rick McCallum's Star Wars Underworld, and then watch our podcast right under it. And make sure that you leave some comments, and subscribe to the channel. We are so close to 1,000 subscribers. That is our upcoming subscriber goal. And we want to thank everybody who has subscribed so far. And as always, you can catch us on social media at the SWU. Dominic, thank you so much for hosting tonight.
It was my pleasure, as always. It was great fun going through that smorgasbord of Star Wars news, as we said at the top. Lots of interesting stuff that we talked about, and lots of interesting stuff that we skipped, that we saved for next week. There is a Star Wars Resistance story that I was talking about earlier that I'm really looking forward to getting into and talking about.
Me too.
That is a show I missed dearly and wish they could have done a 3rd season of. And we might even have a little bit of insight into what that 3rd season might have been had it gotten the chance to be. So hopefully we can do a mini Kazuda cast next week and get into some of the Star Wars Resistance stuff. But yeah, it's been fun this week, and can't wait to do it all again in 7 days' time.
It's long overdue. And you can follow Dominic on social media at DominicJ25 for lots of pictures of the CN Tower, which is 3 Star Destroyers high, as we have found out.
You joke about that. I could do that if I really want to. I have to go there a lot these days, so I could be getting some. I could just turn my account into a CN Tower Stan account.
Sounds fantastic. At Dominic J25, go comment and harass him over there until he does it. And Ben, thank you so much for hosting too.
It was a pleasure as always. And yeah, guys, don't forget now, next week, if I bring the top hat, you got to bring those reaction videos. All right. We have a deal. All right. We're working together on this. All right. So let's see what we can do. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And yeah, we had a lot to cover tonight. We didn't even cover it all. And that Star Wars Resistance story is something that I just, I listened to the episodes from, I will tell everybody, just as preparation for next week, go listen to the Friends of the Force podcast right after you're done listening to this. Good show. And their interview with Brandon, I think it was Brandon Alman was really great. I just got finished listening to it myself. And yeah, go listen to that. Come back next week. We'll talk about that because that's going to be really great. But yeah, can't wait to do this again. See y'all next week.
And you can follow Ben on social media for all those top hat posts at Ben Hart with no E. You can follow me at Seek3PO. And you can follow our producer Chad at ChadBTI. And speaking of listener interaction, they're looking for some more subscribers over there at Star Wars Culture. And there is a deal. 500 people subscribe. Chad will wear a Slave Leia outfit on stream. So,
why am I just now hearing about this?
Excuse me, I'm going to go unsubscribe now. Thank you. Goodbye.
So search for
Jordan. I'm sorry, but I can't abide this.
Search for Star Wars Culture. Scroll down through all the other culture Star Wars stuff that's not fun, and find that channel and subscribe over there. We know how many of you are out there. If all of you subscribe, this will happen in an hour. So please subscribe to Star Wars Culture over there.
The bullying to
Chad just jumped on the video chat to shake his head a second ago for those who are not watching the show. All right, so do that and make sure you check out all the other great stuff that Culture Slate has, and going to Culture Slate's YouTube channel and looking at the suggested channels over there is how you get to all the stuff. And there was Dominic just unsubscribing on video.
It's red now. It's red.
Now you just want to be the You just want to be the 500th subscriber. You want to say it was you who pushed it over the edge. I know I know this game. I've played this game before.
Oh my goodness.
Say $4.99 and then you hit it. So yeah, definitely do that. Real quick, we're on Patreon, patreon.com/theswu. That's where you can get our bonus pre-shows each and every week. We do video pre-shows now, so you can get that exclusively at patreon.com/the SWU. Had a fun time this week reminiscing about some Galaxy's Edge experiences. So check that out. Check us out on TeePublic. Email us at swunderworld.com and leave us a review if you can. So we are out of here. We'll be back next week for Ben, for Dominic, for Chad, for all the other fantastic contributors we have here at the Star Wars Underworld. My name is Chris, and may the Force be with you.
Okay. Don't end the broadcast just yet. Keep it rolling for just a second, because you were going so fast through the outro there. You said you skipped over several important parts of links because it's patreon.com/theswu. And it's
Not
also
SW.
Yeah, which that one that happens to us all. That happens to us all sometimes. But it's the other one, which was the email address.
What did I say?
Is not swunderworld@.com.
Did I say that?
I think that's what you said. There was something wrong with it. I might be misquoting it.
Oh my god!
It's swunderworld@gmail.com. It's a wrap.